Chapter 428, Fight with a Heaven-Defying Expert. Chapter 428, Fight with a Heaven-Defying Expert. Bang! As soon as Deng Hua entered the Jiuxia cave mansion, he started searching desperately. Soon he found Lady Red, who was building the formation in the main shrine. There she is. A coldness flashed in Deng Hua's eyes. Lady Red was establishing the complicated formation. She needed to arrange it involving many areas within the cave mansion, including its main shrine. Suddenly, a thunderous sound boomed. Lady Red turned and was astonished to find Deng Hua rushing towards her. Before Deng Hua reached Lady Red, Jian Wushuang, who followed Deng Hua all the way, shot a look at Deng Hua. Whoosh! The vast blood realm stretched and surrounded Deng Hua. Suppressed by the realm, Deng Hua slowed down a little. Triple shift. Jian Wushuang shot forward like a flowing light. Flying through the void with a residual shadow left in the air, he passed by Deng Hua and arrived before Lady Red first. Oh! Deng Hua stopped and flashed a look of surprise at Jian Wushuang. Nice speed. Swordsman, Lady Red was relieved after seeing Jian Wushuang. Leave him to me, continue your work. Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Lady Red nodded and stepped back. She knew that there was nothing she could do for the fight. Who are you? Deng Hua stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold and haughty face. Swordsman, Jian Wushuang replied. Swordsman. I have not heard about you. Deng Hua shook his head, shot a disdainful look at Jian Wushuang. You are not thinking you can stop me, are you? How would I know if I don't have a try? Jian Wushuang said with a cold smile. At the same time, a powerful stream of battle intent arose. A heaven-defying level. This was the first time he had fought with a real expert of the heaven-defying level. He had not dared to fight with an expert of heaven-defying level before. After the Jiuxia cave mansion, he had comprehended the second move of heart-killing sword technique and his offense had increased. Therefore, he was eager to fight against an expert of heaven-defying level. I want to know how wide the gap between me and a real expert of nature-defying level is. Jian Wushuang licked his lips. Seeing the battle intent in Jian Wushuang's eyes, Deng Hua sneered, seeking death. After saying that, Deng Hua charged toward Jian Wushuang with a cyan saber in his hand and a big and tall saber soul phantom on his back. Heaven-defying experts had all generated souls. For example, Deng Hua had built a saber soul. It was nearly 20 meters high, which was a second-grade saber soul. Boy, show me whether you are able to survive my saber. Deng Hua roared, raising his cyan saber and slashing at Jian Wushuang. As if it was splitting the heavens. With the blessings of his saber soul, it was powerful enough to frighten stage 3 experts. However, Jian Wushuang was waiting for it with keen, sparkling eyes. Good. Then he became serious. 2 first-grade sword soul phantoms rose behind him, which seemed much taller and bigger than Deng Hua's. Jian Wushuang stepped forward and thrust his triple-kill sword. The sword shadow rushed out like lightning. It was the second move of heart-killing sword technique. Desperation. A move with almost all his power. It was powerful enough to impale a stage 3 expert's body and hurt another one heavily. Then the lighting sword shadow crashed with the blade light. Boom! The whole Jiuxia cave mansion shook, and the horrifying power wave caused by their collision spread out overwhelmingly. It shattered many stone stools, tables and decorations in the main shrine. In a blink of an eye, the main shrine was flattened, full of broken stone and dust. Lady Red, who had retreated to the outside, was shocked after seeing the scene. She knew she would have died if she had not escaped the wave. In the center of the main shrine, the two forces separated after a good while, both Jian Wushuang and Deng Hua stepping back simultaneously. Deng Hua came to a stop and looked at Jian Wushuang, seriously rather than disdainfully. When he saw the 2 sword soul phantoms behind Jian Wushuang, he narrowed his eyes slightly. Double first-grade sword soul, it seems I underestimated you. He didn't pay attention to Jian Wushuang until now. But after a short fight, he was surprised by Jian Wushuang's battle strength. The sword move he displayed was almost as powerful as mine, nearly reaching nature-defying level. Deng Hu thought secretly, I thought Bone King was the strongest among them, but didn't expect that Swordsman is much stronger than Bone King. Bone King was just capable of fighting with him, he wouldn't be a threat to Deng Hu. But Jian Wushuang was much stronger than Bone King. It drew Deng Hu's attention. During the last fight, Deng Hu could not establish an advantage over him. Deng Hu, you, a top expert of heaven-defying level. Is this your strength? Jian Wushuang stared at Deng Hu with furious eyes. You're challenging me. As you wish. Deng Hu's voice was cold. However, his battle strength was increasing and his white robe fluttered in the breeze. As he finished talking, he stepped forward. Whooshe thrilling sonic boom spread in the void, he was more powerful than before. Is this your full strength? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes, that's what I'm expecting. Azura secret skill, Bridge of Helplessness. Boom. The whole Jiosha cave mansion was shaken. On the edge of the Blood River, a towering long blood bridge suddenly appeared, extending to the end of the river at an amazing speed. Jian Wushuang stood on the bridge. A large amount of blood-red energy gathered around his body, as if he was an Azura in a blood-red armor. His battle strength jumped too, which was now no less than Deng Hu's. Chapter 429, Fight. Fight. Chapter 429, Fight. Fight. Bridge of Helplessness. Jian Wushuang had mastered it when he was in Nanyang continent. It was powerful but used too much spiritual power. Therefore, Jian Wushuang generally didn't use it. Fighting with Deng Hu, an expert of heaven-defying level, he had to use it. Fight! A deep shout rose, then a strong sense of battle intent surged in Jian Wushuang. He was like a marvelous Azura in scarlet armor. Pushing out with his feet, Jian Wushuang jumped up to the void with a roar. The two sword soul phantoms behind him were also full of battle intent. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of Deng Hu. Boom! A sword stabbed out, decisively and desperately. It was still the second move of heart-killing sword technique, desperation. Deng Hu's look was frosty. When the sword approached him, he felt pressured. Acting with caution, he raised his cyan saber and waved it with all his forces, one by one, the dazzling light flashed like a sun. Apparently, Deng Hu was also using his best moves. Bang! An explosion erupted, releasing a power which seemed to almost destroy the world. Before the impact forces dissipated completely, Jian Wushuang moved his sword forcefully to counter the impact force. Whoosh! 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 3 moves of desperation in succession were displayed and each one was fast and decisive. Humph! Deng Hu snorted, the dazzling light on him was shining even brighter and the cyan saber in his hand was also sending out beams one by one. In a twinkling, they fought at close quarters. Bang! 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 The constant bangs vibrated in the Jiosha cave mansion. Luckily it was an impregnable cave mansion built by the Jiosha lord himself, otherwise, such a fierce fight would have destroyed it. Bang! With another roar, both Jian Wushuang and Deng Hu were forced back. Deng Hu backed and leaned on the wall, looking at Jian Wushuang in shock. Where does this young man come from? He can fight with me like this. Deng Hu was surprised, he was good at fighting at close quarters. If fighting at close quarters, he was capable of battling with the Lord. But he was unable to suppress Jian Wushuang in the last several attacks. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of excitement. He also admitted, Deng Hu is really a super expert of heaven-defying level. He has faced desperation more than 10 times in succession with the help of Bridge of Helplessness, but none of them prevailed. Compared with a super expert of heaven-defying level, I'm much weaker. Jian Wushuang knew that he had tried his best right now. As his strongest move, desperation was powerful but at the same time consumed his spiritual power. What's more, he also used two secret skills, Road to the Underworld and Bridge of Helplessness. Especially the Bridge of Helplessness, it consumes spiritual power too much and too quickly. In such a short moment, he had consumed more than 80% of his spiritual power and had too little left to continue fighting with Deng Hua. Though he had more spiritual power than normal Saint Realm because of his heavenly creation skill. If it were anyone else, their spiritual power would have been used up. Compared to Deng Hua, whose breath was still strong. Although he had used some spiritual power, his battle strength was still powerful. That was because he used what he was good at, which only consumed very little spiritual power. They are really powerful movements. However, the more powerful they are, the more difficult it is to use them. It seems you have exhausted most of your spiritual power, haven't you? Deng Hua looked at Jian Wushuang, having double first-grade sword soul, you have more potential than me and it's possible for you to surpass me. But now, you have no chance. While saying this, a stream of killing intent was gathering in Deng Hua's eyes. He was shocked by Jian Wushuang's potential, especially his double first-grade sword soul. Even if it was him, he had made great efforts to have a second-grade sword soul. Such a peerless genius of great potential, who is also an expert of the opposing camp. How could Deng Hua let him off? Boy, go to hell. Deng Hua shouted and came at Jian Wushuang again. Jian Wushuang's breath had weakened and the blood river, including the Bridge of Helplessness, had vanished. It seemed he had little battle strength right now. After seeing Deng Hua rushing towards him, Jian Wushuang's mouth had a cold smile. Kill me. You are not strong enough. Then he waved his hand and released a streak of flowing light. Immediately a big and tall figure in scarlet armor, boots, and scarlet helmet showed up. It was Jian Wushuang's blood puppet. Jian Wushuang gave the blood puppet 3 blood gems this time. After taking the blood gems, blood puppet's eyes gleamed like thunder and lightning. Blood puppet, kill him. Giving it an instruction, Jian Wushuang stepped back and took some spiritual power elixirs to restore his spiritual power. Receiving Jian Wushuang's instruction, blood puppet turned into a blood light and faced Deng Hua. A puppet? Watching a blood puppet rushing towards him, Deng Hua was surprised but he didn't care. The blood puppet clenched its right fist, gathering a terrible power in it. Standing behind and holding his breath, Jian Wushuang was hopeful. A blood puppet made by the sword ancestor himself. With 1 blood gem, the blood puppet was able to defeat Xue Luo, who was quite strong in power and defense. 3 blood gems this time. Let me see how powerful the blood puppet is with 3 blood gems. Chapter 430, Explode, 3 blood gems. Chapter 430, Explode, 3 blood gems. Under the gaze of Jian Wushuang, the blood puppet collided against Deng Hua. With a cold face, Deng Hua angrily slashed out his cyan saber, whose blade light immediately turned into a sun with overwhelming power. The blood puppet had condensed the power in its fist, and forcefully punched out. It was as if 2 stars were colliding head-on. An intangible blast wave rippled out, making the main halt that was already heavily damaged, suffer even more destruction. The blood puppet consumed 3 blood gems. Jian Wushuang tightly stared forward with sparkling eyes. When the two collided, that Deng Hua did not take the blood puppet seriously, but when the power of the fist of the blood puppet really erupted. Boom! The saber in his hand at that moment was hit aside, and a strong power was transmitted along his arm. What? Deng Hua was aghast. When the great power moved up his arm, he could not help grunting, followed by vomiting out a big mouthful of blood. Then, his body was forced backward in an ugly way. As a dignified super expert at the heaven-defying level, he was hurt heavily by a punch of the blood puppet. If Deng Hua was careless or did not try his best, it may have been understandable. Yet, he had given his full effort just now and had wielded his most powerful saber technique, yet was hurt heavily by a single punch. Seeing this, a happy expression grew in Jian Wushuang's eyes. As expected, the blood puppet consuming one blood gem could directly outclass Xue Luo, the overlord among experts of Stage 3. If it consumes 2 blood gems, the blood puppet could compete with the ordinary heaven-defying expert. With 3 blood gems, of course the battle strength of the blood puppet would be more powerful than the heaven-defying level. The more blood gems the blood puppet consumed, the stronger it would be in battle. The power of 3 blood gems was indeed far beyond the ordinary heaven-defying level, at least much stronger than Deng Hua. Having heavily hurt Deng Hua with a punch, the blood puppet did not stop, but attacked Deng Hua again. Its order from Jian Wushuang was to kill Deng Hua, so before finishing the task, the blood puppet would not stop. Damn it! Deng Hua's countenance changed greatly when he saw the blood puppet rushing towards him again. With one collision, he had been frightened by the blood puppet. Where does this terrifying blood puppet come from? Its strength is even above mine. Even those lord experts would be hard-pressed to find such a powerful puppet fighter. How could this guy get one? Deng Hua was in disbelief. When the blood puppet rushed towards him, he was wiser and did not collide against it again. Instead, he decided to fight against the blood puppet with his speed and technique. However, he quickly found that the blood puppet was more powerful than him in strength, speed, and defense. It outclassed him in nearly every aspect. Its only disadvantage was that it had no intelligence, so its attacks were simple, without using skills. Relying only on its overwhelming strength and incredible speed, however, the blood puppet had placed Deng Hua in an extremely difficult position. This puppet fighter is just an iron block. I slashed him with my full strength, but it was nothing to him. His strength and speed are much superior than mine. Even though my strength could become the twice of the current level, I'm afraid I would not be able to defeat it. Deng Hua was shocked. He had clashed with the blood puppet several times. Yet, after the brief fight, he had no means to defeat it. My speed is lower than the puppet fighter. With his interference, I have no method to be able to kill the swordsman and that person deploying the formation. Instead, once the swordsman's spiritual power has recovered and he displays his realm again, in conjunction with the puppet fighter, I'll have no chance to survive. Deng Hua's pupils slightly shrank. When he was fighting against the blood puppet, he was observing Jian Wushuang not far away. While Deng Hua was fighting against the blood puppet, Jian Wushuang was swallowing elixirs and quietly recovering his spiritual power. Now, most of his spiritual power had been recovered. Once it was completely recovered, and Jian Wushuang used his realm to suppress him, it would be over. Anyway, if Jian Wushuang alone exerted his full strength, Deng Hua would be afraid. If Jian Wushuang, at his peak status, fought together with the puppet fighter against him, he would not be able to survive at all. I have to leave. He felt helpless. There was no other way. Jian Wushuang's ability was far beyond his imagination. The strength Jian Wushuang desperately displayed before had already stunned him. What's more astonishing, this puppet fighter turned up. This puppet fighter was too terrifying. It was absolutely the most terrifying puppet fighter Deng Hua had seen in his whole life. With this puppet fighter alone, Deng Hua could never kill Jian Wushuang or Lady Red. There was no use for him to stay there. Naturally, he needed to leave. Bang! Colliding against the blood puppet again, Deng Hua's face turned paler, after which, Deng Hua created some distance again from the blood puppet. You're lucky this time. With a cold snort, Deng Hua suddenly turned around and rushed out of the cave mansion. He wanted to leave, but Jian Wushuang did not agree. Want to run? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. Is it so easy to leave? Blood puppet, hunt him. Jian Wushuang directly sent out his order. Meanwhile, 70% of his spiritual power had recovered. Due to the heavenly creation skill, Jian Wushuang's spiritual power recovery was faster than the experts of the same rank. In addition, he had consecutively swallowed elixirs. Naturally, the recovery was very fast. 70% spiritual power is too little to use the bridge of helplessness and would not last long, but it is enough to use the road to the underworld. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. He focused his thoughts. Immediately, an overwhelming killing intent rolled out, and a long blood river flew out again. The blood river moved too quickly, and Deng Hua was covered at once. A powerful suppressive force was placed upon Deng Hua's body. Deng Hua's face turned solemn. He glanced at Jian Wushuang behind him and shouted in a low voice, "Boy, I have decided to retreat. What are you going to do?" "What am I going to do? Do I need to tell you?" Jian Wushuang sneered. "You have consumed 3 of my blood gems. If I let you leave, wouldn't I lose too much?" Vast killing intent surged in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He wanted to kill Deng Hua. Chapter 431, Chase and Kill. Chapter 431, Chase and Kill. "Kill me. Are you able to?" Flames of fury were surging in Deng Hua's eyes. He was a genuine heaven-defying expert. Even faced with an ordinary lord, he was able and prepared to fight with his strength. In the entire flaming battlefield, with no lord at present, who dared to think about killing him? Even the 3 heaven-defying experts at the Drifting Blood Marquis side did not dare to say that. But now, Jian Wushuang wanted to kill him. "You'll know whether I am able to immediately." Jian Wushuang did not say too much. With the blood river suppression, the blood puppet had rushed in front of Deng Hua as soon as possible. When the blood puppet's fist attacked him again, Deng Hua's mouth corners twitched a little, but he had to defend with his full strength. With a huge bang, Deng Hua was forced backward by several steps. Before he obtained his balance again, however, a shadow turned up in front of him. An icy cold sword light, with a decisive and desperate intent, violently thrust at his head. Deng Hua's face turned pale. He immediately wielded his saber, which collided against the icy cold sword light. And then, the counterforce quickly generated a distance between the two. This boy. Deng Hua looked at Jian Wushuang with fear. His spiritual power was running out. In such a short period, it has almost recovered. How could that happen? Deng Hua was stunned. However, he did not know that Jian Wushuang had cultivated heavenly creation skill, which was originally in defiance of the natural order. Not only was his spiritual power recovery speed very high, but his elixir absorption speed was also very frightening. For elixir or spiritual liquid that could slowly enhance spiritual power, other warriors needed a long time to absorb them, but Jian Wushuang could absorb them much faster with the heavenly creation skill. He had just swallowed elixir to recover his spiritual power. Naturally, the effect of the elixir was quickly absorbed, so in a short instant, much of his spiritual power had been recovered. Damn! Deng Hua had an uneasy expression. The blood puppet and Jian Wushuang were fighting. The worst scene appeared in front of Deng Hua. Run! Without any hesitation, Deng Hua turned around and violently rushed out of the cave mansion. Go! The killing intent was surging in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The triple kill sword in his hand was vibrating like crazy as he chased with the blood puppet. Outside the Jiuxia cave mansion, the fierce battle between the two camps was still going on and had turned white hot. The situation was very horrifying. In the Drifting Blood Marquis camp of the two camps, He Yunqiong was the weakest one and had been slaughtered. Besides, Zhu Hua, an invited top expert of Stage 3, had also been slaughtered. Hence, 2 people had died. In the Pale Moon Marquis camp, except for the green-clothed elder who was killed by Jian Wushuang, another top expert of Stage 3 had died. Besides, 2 people were heavily hurt. This fierce battle was still in a deadlock. When fighting against Bone King, Duo Xan Marquis glanced at the entry of the cave mansion below from time to time. All the experts of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp are fighting against us here, so there should be an expert deploying the formation as well as swordsmen in the cave mansion. It should be very easy for Master Deng Hua to kill them with his strength. Why haven't I seen him come out yet? Duo Xan Marquis and the other experts from the Pale Moon Marquis camp had full confidence in Deng Hua's strength. In the entire flaming battlefield, with no lord at present, Deng Hua, the heaven-defying expert, was invincible. Bone King and the others were very worried. The situation here is stabilized. Now the key lies in the cave mansion. I am not sure whether Swordsman can pin down Deng Hua. Bone King thought. He did not expect Jian Wushuang to rival Deng Hua. He just hoped Jian Wushuang could pin down the latter, so that Lady Red would have a chance to deploy the formation. But right at this moment. Bang! A huge roar was heard from the cave mansion below, followed by a figure who violently shot out like a cannonball. He's emerged. The battling experts from the two camps looked over across the void. It was seen that a figure was rapidly retreating. Obviously, that man had been forced out of the cave mansion. After he was able to stand steadily, his old face became apparent with bloodstains at the corners of his mouth. This is Master Deng Hua. Having clearly seen the face, the experts from the Pale Moon Marquis camp could not help but feel shocked. Suddenly, from inside that cave mansion, two figures, one after another, quickly rushed out. The figure in front was scarlet, and appeared extremely strong. He directly rushed towards Deng Hua like an ancient fierce beast. Then, a fist with the strength of billions of tons, with terrifying power surging inside it, directly struck out at Deng Hua. Deng Hua was aware how terrifying that scarlet figure was, so he did not dare to resist. His figure dodged and violently retreated. Bang! The tremendous fist was struck the empty space, but power still exploded and shook the entire sky and earth. This then penetrated the void and passed to the ground below. Immediately, the ground was lifted into the air. Dust was flying everywhere. A huge pit covering hundreds of meters, as deep as 10 meters, appeared. Deng Hua, who had just evaded the punch of the blood puppet and seen the power of that punch, was not even able to feel lucky before an icy cold sword shadow, like lightning, violently flashed towards his head with decisive killing intent. It was still that sword. It was Jian Wushuang's strongest unique skill. Damn it! Deng Hua cursed in his mind. He dared not fend off the blood puppet's attacks. Jiang Wushuang's strongest sword skill, however, was also of unusual power. He could easily fend it off in normal combat, but just now he had just escaped from the blood puppet's attack, with no time to use proper techniques to fend it off. He had to move aside in a ferocious struggle. The lightning-like sword shadow penetrated the void beside Deng Hua's body and directly hit the cliff of the mountain behind them. The mountain was utterly penetrated, showing a spiral cave. Having seen the power of the sword, Deng Hua's face could not help but twitch a little. His body crazily rushed out. With cold eyes, Jian Wushuang did not intend to let Deng Hua go. With the help of the Blood River Realm, he rushed out to chase Deng Hua. Quickly, Jian Wushuang, the blood puppet, and Deng Hua disappeared into the distant horizon. In the void outside the Jiuxia cave mansion, everyone was stunned. The experts from both the Drifting Blood Marquis camp and the Pale Moon Marquis camp were all stunned. Deng Hua, Master Deng Hua, is running away and being pursued. He is fleeing. How could it be possible? Deng Hua, the super expert at the heaven-defying level, the absolute invincible being at the Saint Realm, was fleeing? What's more, they had seen clearly that the man who was chasing Deng Hua was Jian Wushuang, together with a puppet fighter of terrifying strength. Stunned. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 432, Deng Hua, you cannot escape. Chapter 432, Deng Hua, you cannot escape. Swordsman, Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast were astonished and looked at him with widened eyes. Before that, they had just hoped that Jian Wushuang could pin down Deng Hua, so that Lady Red would be able to deploy the formation. They had never expected anything else. But now. What had they seen? Jian Wushuang was chasing Deng Hua. Yes, he was chasing. What's more, whether Deng Hua could escape was unclear. Swordsman wants to kill Deng Hua. Even thinking of this possibility was breathtaking for everyone. Deng Hua was a heaven-defying expert. In the entire flaming battlefield, with no lord at present, he was definitely invincible. There had been so many battles at the flaming battlefield. When had a heaven-defying expert been pursued? Today's pursuit was definitely the first time. The flaming battlefield stretched across 8 million kilometers and was very vast. The outer area alone was incomparably vast. The experts from the two big camps, i.e., the groups formed by numerous experts of Stage 2, were fiercely fighting in the outer area. At this moment, just in the vast void of the outer area, two small teams were fiercely battling. Kill. Send them to hell. Their battle was extremely intense. At this moment, however, from the distant horizon, a huge blood river was fast floating towards them. Deng Hua, you cannot escape. A cold voice resounded throughout the sky, making the two teams, who were in a fierce battle, stop fighting. Many pairs of eyes began to look over at the blood river. Deng Hua? Which Deng Hua? All the experts from the small team of the Pale Moon Marquis camp were somewhat astounded. However, very soon, they saw the white-robed elder, who was crazily fleeing in front of the blood river. The aura sent out by the white-robed elder made everyone tremble. The experts of the small team from the Pale Moon Marquis camp immediately recognized the white-robed elder. Master Deng Hua. That is Master Deng Hua. The invincible Master Deng Hua, one of the 3 heaven-defying level experts in our Pale Moon Marquis camp. One scream after another was heard, astonishing the experts of the small team from the Drifting Blood Marquis camp. They were not very familiar with Deng Hua, but hearing heaven-defying level was enough to astonish them. Yet, the scene in front of them shocked everyone. Master Deng Hua is being pursued. How could this be possible? It's impossible. The experts of the small team from the Pale Moon Marquis camp gave one exclamation after another to express their shock. Hurry up. Let's follow them. The expert team from the Drifting Blood Marquis camp were extremely excited. They stopped the battle at once. Both teams followed them simultaneously. Actually, the commotion of Jian Wushuang chasing Deng Hua was very disruptive. He had been chasing for tens of thousands miles from the Jiosha cave mansion. The expert teams they had come across were far more than just these two. Yet, everyone was shocked by this scene. Many teams wanted to follow, but unfortunately, they could not catch up with their speed. In the midst of the blood river, Deng Hua's face was extremely gloomy. His aura had weakened a lot. There was no way out for him. Trapped in the blood river, his speed was limited. However, Jian Wushuang and that blood puppet, who were originally very fast, were faster than him with the assistance of the blood river, and caught up very quickly. Every time after they caught up, he would try his best to fend them off, and then using the counterforce to generate some distance. Over and over, his wounds were adding up, and he could not repeat it anymore. With this blood river, I can't escape. If it continues like this, I'll really die here. I have no other choice but can only use that. Deng Hua grit his teeth tightly. In his eyes, there was a strong sense of unwillingness. Suddenly, Deng Hua stopped and turned around. Stopped running away. Jian Wushang and the blood puppet also stopped. The former shot a glance at the latter, and nodded quietly. From the start of the attack till now, a quarter of an hour had passed, but the blood puppet still had some residual strength. Consuming one blood gem can only support the blood puppet for half a quarter. Now, I have spent 3 blood gems, not only making it more powerful, but also making it last longer. Jian Wushuang thought secretly. In the blood river, Deng Hua looked a mess and was staring at Jian Wushuang with beast-like eyes. Swordsman! Deng Hua shouted. Near the blood river, a lot of expert teams from the two big camps had caught up, observing the scene. When they heard "Swordsman," a commotion was raised. Swordsman. The man chasing Deng Hua is called Swordsman. I know about this Swordsman. It's heard that he has just arrived in the inner area recently. It's said that he owns an extremely powerful realm technique, but his own strength is not very strong. But now, it seems the hearsay is wrong. His battle strength is terrifying. The scarlet figure beside him should be a puppet fighter. It is so strong. The swordsman does not only possess powerful strength and realm, but also has an awesome puppet fighter. He is so terrifying. Master Deng Hua has stopped running. He knows he has nowhere to go and plans to wage a life-and-death battle. The followed experts nearby were discussing in low voices. Swordsman. Deng Hua stared at Jian Wushang with killing intent flashing in his eyes. I admit, I lose this time. Don't be smug. What has happened today will be doubled upon you when we meet next time. Next time. Jian Wushang slightly narrowed his eyes. This Deng Hua had been forced into such a position. He wanted next time. What? You really think you can kill me? Deng Hua sneered scornfully, and then turned his hand upside down. A token appeared in his hand, with a strange wave in it. That wave was very familiar to Jian Wushang. It was similar to a wormhole. That is, Jian Wushang stared at the token in Deng Hua's hand. Deng Hua was also staring at the token in his hand, unwilling to give it up. This transfer slip is the most valuable treasure I have after so many adventures in cave mansions. After so many years, no one has ever forced me to use this token, but you. Swordsman. You are a nobody. I have never heard of you before. Today's battle, however, will become your stepping stone. Very soon, your name will spread across the entire flaming battlefield. Yet, I'll find you very quickly. And then, I'll slaughter you by myself. Chapter 433, There is no next time. Chapter 433, There is no next time. Deng Hua's words were sonorous and forceful, with towering killing intent. The numerous experts hiding nearby couldn't help but change their countenance. I thought Master Deng Hua knew he had nowhere to go, so decided to wage a life-and-death battle with swordsmen. But now, it's not like that at all. Master Deng Hua is really a heaven-defying expert. He has so many measures. He even owns a transfer slip. It's a transfer slip. This is equivalent to a life. Such a treasure is of extraordinary value. I'm afraid Master Deng Hua will feel awful that he had to use it. This master swordsman could force Master Deng Hua to escape with a transfer slip. He really has marvelous skills. Many of the experts were gasping in admiration. Transfer slip. Jian Wushang's pupil slightly shrank. He had heard about transfer slips. Its nature was similar to that of the space travel spell, both of which could be used to transfer people across space. However, the transfer slip was far more valuable than the space travel spell. The space travel spell could only connect two fixed spaces, with one wormhole as the center and the token as one junction. When transferring with the space travel spell, people could only be transferred to that wormhole, and at the other side of the wormhole some preparation was needed. Besides, even if using the space travel spell, the formation of the wormhole needed some time. Hence, at the crucial moment of life and death, the space travel spell would not be useful. After all, at the moment of life and death, you would have no time to wait for the slow formation of the wormhole. Besides, the connection between spaces was not steady enough. A random attack from the opponent would utterly destroy the wormhole. Therefore, the space travel spell was generally used for long-distance travel only. However, a transfer slip was different. The token itself was the center, and a wormhole would be quickly formed around the token. Then, the owner of the token could freely transfer to any place within range through the wormhole. It was equivalent to direct teleportation. In terms of escaping at the crucial moment, it was absolutely the best life-saving treasure. A transfer slip was extremely valuable. In the treasure vault of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp, there had never been such a treasure as a transfer slip. After being stared at by Jian Wushuang, Deng Hua, who was trapped in the Blood River and had nowhere to go, directly crushed the transfer slip in his hand. When the token was crushed, a strange space wave immediately rippled out. In the center of the Blood River, beside Deng Hua, a complete wormhole quickly appeared. It was so fast and so steady that Jian Wushang could not prevent it even though he wanted to. Swordsman, very soon, we'll meet again. Deng Hua's voice was cold. After which, he stepped slowly into the wormhole. Next time. A cold smile appeared at the corners of Jian Wushuang's mouth. There is no next time. The chilly voice echoed between heaven and earth. Deng Hua, who was going to step into the wormhole, shot a glance at Jian Wushuang unconsciously, but found the latter's face had turned red with a sense of madness flashing in his eyes. Azura secret skill, the third move, 18 levels of hell. Boom! The Blood River roared. Above the Blood River, a blood cloud swirled, forming a huge vortex. In the vortex, there was an 18-floor scarlet pavilion. Slowly descending. Inside the pavilion, some ghost shadows were faintly visible, crazily screaming and roaring until the scarlet pavilion completely landed. The scarlet pavilion directly pressed upon Deng Hua's body. Buzzing. A blast of invisible waves spread out. Jian Wushuang had displayed the 18 levels of hell only once when he was desperate. At that time, he had to display it with the soul-devouring secret skill as well as the power of elixir and blood essence. Even though his strength had risen by several levels now, using this technique was still very difficult. At this moment, the use of this technique had utilized all his residual spiritual power and forced him to swallow several elixirs again. Only then could this technique be used. The power of this technique was incredible. When the Scarlet Pavilion landed and pressed upon Deng Hua, his pupils suddenly shrank with fear and astonishment. The 18 levels of hell were completely different from the road to the underworld and the bridge of helplessness. What was most terrifying in the 18 level of hell was the incredible deterrence, which directly targeted a person's consciousness and could trap someone forcefully. Like now, under this huge pressure, Deng Hua's consciousness seized up, and he was unable to step into the wormhole. Just like a fool, he stood there, looking absent-minded. The pause was very brief and fleeting. To an ordinary people, such a pause meant nothing. However, for someone with Jian Wushuang's strength, this brief pause was crucial. Blood puppet, kill him! Jian Wushuang angrily shouted. The blood puppet beside him immediately rushed out and appeared in front of Deng Hua in an instant. It punched at Deng Hua's head. After a brief pause, Deng Hua's consciousness recovered, just to find the blood puppet in front of him. At that moment, the latter's fist was only half a centimeter from his face. At such a close distance, Deng Hua was utterly unable to react. No! With a shrill roar, Deng Hua's head completely exploded, and he died. Before his death, one of his feet had already stepped into that wormhole, just leaving his body outside, but finally, he would never step into it. It was silent. The entire heaven and earth became silent at this moment. The experts from the small teams, who were watching in the void, were all astounded. He is dead. Deng Hua is dead. Deng Hua, the super expert at the heaven-defying level, the invincible expert of the flaming battlefield, has been killed. He took out his transfer slip, but at the very last moment, he was unable to escape. The atmosphere was electric. The entire crowd was shocked. Totally incredible. What on earth was Swordsman's last technique? What a terrifying technique. Did you see it? Deng Hua was made into a fool by that technique. He could not move even a little, and the puppet fighter killed him. Too strong. Swordsman is too strong. Everyone was terrified, and the crowd was boiling with excitement. In the flaming battlefield, there were countless deaths. The fall of an expert was usually an ordinary matter. However, the fallen expert this time was Deng Hua, one of the 3 heaven-defying experts of the Pale Moon Marquis camp. In the flaming battlefield, with no lord at present, the heaven-defying experts were invincible, and that was acknowledged to all. In the thousands of years of battle in the flaming battlefield, there had been some heaven-defying experts killed, but they were all killed by lords. But today, the man who had killed Deng Hua, the heaven-defying expert, was at the Saint Realm. His name was Jian Wushuang. Chapter 434, Made a Killing. Chapter 434, Made a Killing. Buzz. The Scarlet Pavilion dissipated slowly, as did the mighty Blood River. The blood puppet powered off and remained motionlessly suspended there. Everything finally quieted down. Jian Wushuang looked pale. He went to Deng Hua's corpse, took the white-robed elder's interspatial ring, and started binding the ring to himself. It took me a lot of energy and 3 blood gems to kill him. I hope his interspatial ring won't disappoint me, Jian Wushuang thought with expectation. As he checked the ring, many treasures began to appear before his eyes. After a while, his eyes sparked with surprise and joy. Fantastic, he is worthy of being a heaven-defying level expert. Jian Wushuang spoke. He had never seen such a valuable ring that held so many treasures. There were hundreds of thousands of raw gems, lots of natural treasures, elixirs, magic weapons, manuals and some treasures even Jian Wushuang could not identify. There were 2 treasures that delighted him the most. The first one was a heaven-breaking elixir. This elixir had the same function as the Saint Breakthrough elixir. It could greatly increase the probability of an expert at the pinnacle of the Saint Realm making a breakthrough to the Cloud Realm. Like experts at the peak of the Yang Void Realm or half-saint level, who desired Saint Breakthrough elixirs, many Saint Realm experts often yearned for heaven-breaking elixirs. A large number of experts at Stage 3 or the peak of Stage 3 would go mad for this elixir. He prepared a heaven-breaking elixir. It seems Deng Hua intended to make a breakthrough. It's pity that he was killed before his breakthrough, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. The heaven-breaking elixir was very useful to him. He would use this elixir for his breakthrough. The second treasure that amazed Jian Wushuang was a token. The token looked the same as the transfer slip that Deng Hua had wanted to use to escape. It was another transfer slip. It is a second transfer slip. Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh. A transfer slip was something rare and precious that could save one's life at a critical moment. Deng Hua was unlucky. Even if he fought against a powerful lord, he could have escaped by using the transfer slip, but he had bumped into Jian Wushuang. 18 levels of hell that Jian Wushuang displayed could suppress Deng Hua's consciousness and even restricted transfer slip's effect, so Deng Hua ended up getting killed. Deng Hua said that the transfer slip was the most valuable treasure he got from exploring cave mansions and no one could force him to use it. Actually, he gained more than 1 transfer slip, Jian Wushuang said and sneered. He understood that since it was a trump card for saving one's life, it was no wonder that Deng Hua lied and said he had only 1 transfer slip. I just spent some energy and 3 blood gems, but I received plenty of raw gems and countless treasures, including a heaven-breaking elixir and a transfer slip. I made a killing. Jian Wushuang said with a hint of excitement in his eyes. He really had earned a lot. What he gained was over 10 times what he used. It took Jian Wushuang quite a while to calm down. Then he looked around indifferently, noticing the shocked and terrified spectators, but he ignored them. After putting the blood puppet back into his interspatial ring, he rushed toward Jiosha Cave Mansion. The fierce fighting around Jiosha Cave Mansion had stopped. Both sides stood opposite each other in the air, waiting quietly. They were all waiting to learn about the outcome. A figure glided through the area and appeared in front of them. It was Jian Wushuang. Swordsman. Bone King, Shuiyang, Beast, and the other comrades looked toward Jian Wushuang at the same time. Swordsman, where is Deng Hua? Bone King asked. Duo Xan Marquis and the other experts of Pale Moon Marquis stared at Jian Wushuang. They had previously seen Jian Wushuang chasing Deng Hua, but now Jian Wushuang had come back without Deng Hua, which was not a good sign. Jian Wushuang coldly glanced at them, his cold voice reverberating throughout the area. From now on, Deng Hua no longer exists in the flaming battlefield. Then he turned over his hand and revealed a token. It was an ID token. However, it was different from an ordinary token, it was purple gold. In the flaming battlefield, experts at different levels would have different ID tokens. For example, an expert at stage 2 commonly had a silver token, while an expert at stage 3 held a gold one. Only heaven-defying level experts were qualified to have golden purple tokens. Everyone present was clear about who had previously possessed this golden purple token. Since Jian Wushuang held the ID token, it meant that its previous owner was. Is he dead? Deng Hua, a super expert at the heaven-defying level, was killed? A heaven-defying level expert is dead? Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast were stunned. The experts from Marquis Tsangyue camp also widened their eyes. They had thought it was incredible when they saw Jian Wushuang chasing after Deng Hua. Now they had received the news that Deng Hua had been killed. He was a super expert at the heaven-defying level. In the whole flaming battlefield, many experts had died throughout its millennial history. Even some lords had been killed, but it was rare for a heaven-defying level expert to die. An expert from Marquis Piaoxue camp had been killed in the flaming battlefield, but it was a lord who killed him. Deng Hua was the second expert at heaven-defying level to be killed in its millennial history. Let's go! Duo Xan Marquis shouted in a low voice. He looked at Jian Wushuang in terror and then led his people away. They knew that it was impossible for them to take back the Jiuxia cave mansion without Deng Hua. Jian Wushuang wore a faint smile while watching his opponents leave. He did not intend to go after them. Chapter 435, Famous for the Fight. Chapter 435, Famous for the Fight. Swordsman. Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast wore complicated expressions while standing in front of Jian Wushuang. When they met, Beast was somewhat disdainful of the young man, but now he was shocked by his strength. Swordsman killed Deng Hua, which means he could easily kill me if I were his opponent. Marquis Tsangyue's people retreated. It's impossible for them to return in a short period of time, so we've basically acquired Jiuxia Cave Mansion. Let's see how the formation is going, Jian Wushuang said casually with a faint smile. Okay. Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast nodded, delighted in their heart. As of now, they had completely conquered Jiuxia Cave Mansion and finished their mission. At this moment, in the huge tent of Marquis Tsangyue camp, 3 tall and bulky figures sat with an angry look. They were lords in charge of the camp business. In front of them, their experts stood respectfully in terror. No one spoke. The whole tent was filled with an oppressive silence. After a good while, a burly middle-aged man with purple hair, who sat on the middle throne, spoke. Deng Hua is dead. A man called Swordsman killed him. I've never heard of this swordsman before, and he isn't on the list of experts our camp needs to pay more attention to. But, Deng Hua, a heaven-defying level expert, was killed by such a nobody. He even used a transfer slip, but still failed to escape. Who can tell me where Swordsman came from? The angry voice of the burly middle-aged man frightened his underlings. A green-robed elder stepped forward and said respectfully, Lord, I've investigated his origin and know that he has recently arrived at the flaming battlefield. Over the past half a year, he became famous for his special realm technique in the inner area, but his own strength was not impressive. This time, when he followed Bone King to fight for control of Jiuxia Cave Mansion, his strength improved greatly. According to Duo Xan Marquis' report, Swordsman fought with 2 experts at the peak of Stage 3. He killed one of them and forced the other to escape with only 1 stroke. His battle strength has reached the heaven-defying level. Besides his own strength, he was able to kill Deng Hua because his puppet fighter, which is also at the heaven-defying level, helped him a lot. The puppet fighter was terrifying indeed. It was more powerful than Deng Hua in the offense, speed, and strength. With Swordsman's realm technique, Sir Deng Hua had no choice but to use the transfer slip. When Sir Deng Hua used the transfer slip, Swordsman displayed a special technique and caused Deng Hua to lose his consciousness for a second. At that moment, the puppet fighter took the chance to kill Deng Hua. Swordsman has awakened the sword soul, and his sword soul was a double first-grade sword soul. In a word, Swordsman is a peerless genius who has great potential. He must have made a major breakthrough in origin or other aspects, causing his strength to improve greatly. Though his present strength is only close to the heaven-defying level, he had various skills and trump cards. The green-robed elder clearly said everything he knew about Jian Wushuang. Humph, the burly middle-aged man snorted and said, I don't care what skills or trump cards he has. This time, we lost Jiosha Cave Mansion and Deng Hua was killed, both because of him. Jiosha Cave Mansion is very precious among the cave mansions under our control. It's just less important than 3 marquee cave mansions. Deng Hua was one of our 3 experts at the heaven-defying level. As we all know, lords won't join fights in the flaming battlefield, which means that the heaven-defying level experts are our backbone. Now Deng Hua is dead. Our battle strength at the heaven-defying level is weaker now, so we might suffer some losses in important battles. Moreover, Swordsman has double first-grade sword souls, so he has great potential. If given several years, he will become one of our powerful enemies. We can't give him such an opportunity. Tell them all that Swordsman ranks first on the bounty list of our camp. Find an opportunity to kill him as soon as possible. The voice of the burly middle-aged man was extremely cold and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Yes, said the green-robed elder. They quickly started discussing how to kill Jian Wushuang. At the same time, the news of Deng Hua being killed outside Jiosha Cave Mansion spread through the 2 camps at an amazing speed. After all, when Jian Wushuang chased after Deng Hua, they ran more than 5,000 kilometers and passed by lots of experts from both camps, so many experts witnessed Jian Wushuang kill Deng Hua. It was no wonder that the news spread so swiftly. It caused a sensation in both camps. Swordsman instantly became a new star in the flaming battlefield. Inside Jiosha Cave Mansion, it's done. As Lady Red set down the gems for the last formation, her eyes lit up. Behind her, Jian Wushuang, Bone King, Shui Yang, and Beast laughed. Finally, we finished our task. Bone King said with a smile. Ha, 10,000 battle achievements, Beast added, his eyes sparkling with joy. 10,000 battle achievement, it's a large amount for us. Of course, that could not be compared with what Swordsman received. Shui Yang looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Indeed, he gained the most from this task. With the best move Jiosha left behind, he had comprehended the second move of heart-killing sword technique, which improved his strength greatly, allowing him to kill Deng Hua. He became famous for this fight and claimed Deng Hua's interspatial ring. Soon he would even receive 10,000 battle achievements. Other experts would be very envious of his gains. Swordsman, I heard that our camp has a special reward for those who kill a top expert. Chapter 436, Special Reward. Chapter 436, Special Reward. A special reward? Jian Wushuang asked with a faint smile. He had heard about it. There was a group of famous top experts, such as Bone King, Duo Xn Marquis, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord, Shui Luo and so on. Although they were only at the peak of Stage 3, they were able to fight against experts at the heaven-defying level, so they could be considered overlords in the flaming battlefield. These overlords were important to both camps. It was said that each camp had a list of top experts from the hostile camp. Only a few powerful experts were qualified to enter the list, and if someone killed an expert from that list, he would receive various extra rewards. Now that Jian Wushuang had killed a heaven-defying level expert from the Marquis Tsangyue camp, he would get a bigger reward. The formation is done. Lady Red, stay here. Everyone else will go back to the camp with me, Bone King said. Then they immediately rushed to the campsite. The moment Jian Wushuang appeared in the campsite, a commotion arose in the camp. Countless experts looked toward Jian Wushuang. He is Swordsman. That's him. He killed Deng Hua, the heaven-defying level expert. Amazing. I wonder when I will be as strong as Mr. Swordsman. Many of the experts around them were talking about Jian Wushuang while ignoring Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast. At this moment, Mr. Swordsman, Spirit Lord asked for you to meet him now that you've returned. Spirit Lord? Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. He did not know Spirit Lord. Since he was a lord, he must be a super expert in the cloud realm. Swordsman, there are 4 lords in charge of camp business. Spirit Lord is the most powerful among them, Bone King whispered to Jian Wushuang, now he wants to meet you. It should be related to the special reward. With an eyebrow cocked, Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast, thanks for your hard work. Spirit Lord said you can submit your tasks now, the purple-robed person said. Bone King, Shuiyang, and Beast responded with a shrug as Jian Wushuang followed the purple-robed person into a tent. It was a spacious tent with only one long narrow table. A stately man with stubble sat before the table. He was Spirit Lord. The instant Jian Wushuang stepped inside, Spirit Lord immediately opened his eyes and looked toward Jian Wushuang. The young man instantly felt as if he was being targeted by a viper, which chilled his blood. Spirit Lord. Jian Wushuang slightly bowed to show his respect. Swordsman. Spirit Lord replied with a smile, which seemed to be filled with various emotions that drove the young man's fear away. I checked your record. You belong to Iron Saber territory and have recently arrived at the Divine Land. Right, Jian Wushuang said while nodding slightly. When in Iron Saber territory, you were not that powerful and just had a good realm technique. Then, after you arrived at the flaming battlefield, you started displaying the battle strength that was at stage 3. Your strength didn't improve until you traveled to the inner area. Especially this trip to Jiosha Cave Mansion, your strength soared to the heaven-defying level. In just half a year, you have made great progress in such a short period of time. Even I was surprised. Spirit Lord looked toward Jian Wushuang and then asked, by the way, where are you from? Nanyang Continent, Jian Wushuang replied honestly, but he was wondering why Spirit Lord inquired about that. I haven't heard of it before, Spirit Lord said while shaking his head. The Divine Land was at the center of the world and possessed countless lands, so it was normal that Spirit Lord had not heard of Nanyang Continent. Take it easy. Spirit Lord said with a smile, I just want to tell you that since our camp knows about your ability, so will the enemy camp. They will pay more attention to you. And, since you killed Deng Hua, they will try their best to kill you. If I didn't guess wrong, you will rank within the top 3 or even first on the bounty list in their camp. So you should be careful. Don't give them an opportunity to kill you. The lords from both sides made a tacit agreement that they won't join common fights. However, if you pose a major threat to them, I am afraid that they will break the agreement. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and nodded heavily. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, take care of yourself. Spirit Lord smiled and said, Marquis Tsangyue Camp has a bounty list with special rewards. We also have one. Killing the experts on that list means you get a special reward. You killed Deng Hua, who was a heaven-defying level expert and ranked 2nd on the list, so you're qualified to get a special reward. Finally. Jian Wushuang thought with a hint of expectation. He was wondering what special reward he would receive after he killed Deng Hua. He expected it to be a big reward. As for your special reward, you have two options. Spirit Lord stuck out two fingers. First, you can freely choose a treasure from our treasure vault. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. I can choose whatever I want in the treasure vault. The treasure vault was filled with thousands of treasures, various secret skills, elixirs, and magic weapons. Even first-grade manuals, first-grade elixirs, and first-grade magic weapons could be found there. Even lords were eager to acquire some of the treasures there. This reward was quite amazing. What's wrong? The reward scares you? Spirit Lord looked at Jian Wushuang. As he saw the young man's eyes sparkle with surprise and joy, Spirit Lord could not help but smile. You probably do not know how important Deng Hua was to the Marquis Cangyue camp. In other words, you did not know how important a heaven-defying level expert is to the whole flaming battlefield. Chapter 437, Beima Cave Mansion. Chapter 437, Beima Cave Mansion. In the flaming battlefield, we have a tacit agreement that lords won't join fights. Therefore, when both sides fight for control of the cave mansions or other important items, Stage 3 experts and heaven-defying level experts mean a lot. Previously, each camp had 3 heaven-defying level experts, so both sides possessed equal battle strength. When fighting for control of cave mansions or important items, both camps would send their heaven-defying level experts to balance out the highest level battles, so they usually ended in a stalemate. However, now that you have killed Deng Hua, their camp has lost a heaven-defying level expert. You have upset the balance. In the near future, if we need to fight for control of a cave mansion or some important items, we will hold the advantage because, including you, we have 4 heaven-defying level experts. Their camp will not be able to beat us, so we'll gain more benefits, Spirit Lord said with a smile. Got it. Jian Wushuang immediately understood. If lords did not show up, a heaven-defying level expert would be the deciding factor in conflicts of interests. Although Deng Hua had not reached the Cloud Realm, he was still more important than a lord. After all, both sides have lots of lords, so it's no big deal for them to lose one. However, there were only 3 heaven-defying level experts in each camp. If such an expert dies, his camp will suffer a great loss. You killed a heaven-defying level expert, so you will receive more rewards than you would for killing a lord, Spirit Lord said. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang did not know how to respond. Since heaven-defying level experts were so important, it was no wonder that he would receive such a big reward. Spirit Lord, you just said I have 2 options. What's the second one? Jian Wushuang asked. Our camp controls 99 cave mansions. Of course, counting Jiosha Cave Mansion, we have 100 cave mansions now. The second option is to allow you to enter one of those cave mansions, Spirit Lord replied. Jian Wushuang was shocked. You mean that I can choose a cave mansion to explore once? Jian Wushuang clenched his hands with a gush of excitement in his eyes. Then he asked, Spirit Lord, are the 3 marquee cave mansions included in 100 cave mansions? Yes. Spirit Lord nodded. Okay, then I will take the second option and I want to explore Marquis Beima Cave Mansion, Jian Wushuang said without hesitation. Ever since he went to Treasure Vault and read the information about the cave mansions, he had been longing for the chance to enter Beima Cave Mansion. Marquis Beima had comprehended world origin to an amazing level. He left 3 opportunities in his mansion, and that was very attractive to Jian Wushuang. You really made a good choice. Spirit Lord looked toward Jian Wushuang and said, of those cave mansions, the cave mansion Marquis Beima left is the most precious. It commonly costs 100,000 battle achievements to enter that mansion. As for the other 2 marquee cave mansions, you only need to pay 50,000 or 65,000 for each mansion. Jian Wushuang touched his nose. He still remembered how the cost of entering Beima Cave Mansion had startled him at the time. It was lucky that he received this special reward, or he might have to wait a long time to meet the requirement. Beima Cave Mansion is in the outer area. You should know its location, so you can go there whenever you want, Spirit Lord added. That's it? Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. I don't need a token or a form of identification. No, I will send a message to the experts who are guarding the mansion. They will identify you when you get there, Spirit Lord replied. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then you can go, Spirit Lord said while waving his hand. Jian Wushuang immediately left the tent. After he submitted his task and gained his battle achievements, Jian Wushuang immediately left for Beima Cave Mansion. He could not wait any longer. Beima Cave Mansion was in the outer area. A few days later, Jian Wushuang appeared in front of Beima Cave Mansion. At the sight of it, he immediately perceived the powerful formation surrounding the mansion. The formation did not release any power, but it could still frighten him a bit. Beima Cave Mansion was heavily guarded. It had even more experts than Jiosha Cave Mansion. Jian Wushuang slowly approached the entrance but found the formation blocking his way. Who is it? A cyan-dressed man, who was standing by the entrance with several experts, shouted. Swordsman, Jian Wushuang answered. Swordsman. The cyan-dressed man and the experts beside him were shocked. The news that Jian Wushuang killed Deng Hua had spread through the whole flaming battlefield over the past several days, so the experts who guarded Beima Cave Mansion had also heard about it. Sir, you are Swordsman? The cyan-dressed man immediately changed his attitude and said respectfully, I received an order and know you have an opportunity to explore Beima Cave Mansion. I didn't expect you to come so quickly. The cyan-dressed man was an expert at stage 3, but he still called Jian Wushuang, Sir. May I go inside now? Jian Wushuang asked. Sorry, sir. I do believe you, but we have rules. I need to identify you before you can enter, the cyan-dressed man said. How will you identify me? Jian Wushuang replied peacefully. As we all know, you've awakened a double first-grade sword soul and can display a realm technique. Blood River. Sir, as long as you perform one of those techniques, I can let you enter, the cyan-dressed man answered. Chapter 438, Lord Level Puppet Fighter. Chapter 438, Lord Level Puppet Fighter. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Then two towering sword soul phantoms rose behind him. Each of the sword soul phantoms was almost 100 feet tall and contained a mighty sword essence. The experts by the entrance could not help marveling at it. How about it? Jian Wushuang asked while looking at the cyan-dressed man. Sir, please wait a moment. The cyan-dressed man immediately went to open the formation. After a while, Jian Wushuang saw a hole appear in the formation, so he walked in through it. The cyan-dressed man stepped forward and said, Sir, I'm in Feng and have guarded this area for many years. If you have any problems, you can ask me. Okay. Jian Wushuang glanced at the cyan-dressed man and nodded slightly. Sir, please come with me. The cyan-dressed man immediately led Jian Wushuang into the mansion. As a marquee cave mansion, Beima Cave Mansion covered a vast stretch of land, with a long channel connected to the entrance. Jian Wushuang was walking in the channel while inspecting some of the guards in it. Most of the guards were at stage 2. He even saw some experts that were at stage 3. Obviously, the security here was much more powerful than that at Jiosha Cave Mansion. Jian Wushuang sensed two streams of faint but terrifying auras. Obviously, there were two lords guarding this mansion. It's worthy of being a marquee cave mansion. Two lords actually guard it. Jian Wushuang sighed in private. Sir, we're arriving at the inner layer of this mansion. There are 3 opportunities in this mansion. I will show you later, and Feng said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. They quickly arrived at the inner layer of Beima Cave Mansion and entered a huge secret chamber. The chamber was as large as a small martial arts practice field, with only a statue standing on the ground. It was like a human being, except for the fact that it had no aura. A puppet fighter. Jian Wushuang immediately knew that it was a powerful puppet fighter as soon as he saw it. Behind the puppet fighter, there was a long narrow table with an interspatial ring suspended in the middle of it. The ring, which was covered by a layer of gray energy, easily drew his attention. "Sir, this interspatial ring is the first opportunity in Beima Cave Mansion." And Feng whispered to Jian Wushuang, "The ring Marquis Beima left is filled with countless precious treasures, most of which even lords would like to possess. No one knows how many treasures this interspatial ring holds. Ever since our camp conquered this place, we've tried to take this ring away, but even Marquis Piaoxue did not succeed, let alone binding it to himself." "Oh." Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he immediately understood. According to the information he received, Marquis Beima was extremely powerful, and much stronger than an ordinary marquis. It was not surprising that such a super expert left a special spell on his interspatial ring so that not even Marquis Piaoxue could break it. "Though you can't take it away, you will be given a chance to receive some treasures from it," and Feng continued, "The only way to obtain treasures is to pass a test given by this puppet fighter." Test? Jian Wushuang thought with some expectations. Commonly, opportunities were accompanied by tests. Just like the ancestors' land. There were a large number of opportunities in the ancestors' land, but in order to receive the benefits, one needed to pass 3 tests. As for the test, "Sir, as long as you fight this puppet fighter for 10 breaths of time, which means that the puppet fighter doesn't kill you or drive you out of the secret chamber, you will have passed," and Feng said. "Fight for 10 breaths of time." Jian Wushuang was astonished. "Sir, this puppet fighter has reached the lord level," and Feng replied. Jian Wushuang frowned. "There must have been other experts that came here before me and took this test, right?" he asked. "Right." And Feng nodded. "Since the time our camp conquered this place, lots of experts have come here and passed this test. Each of them gained a treasure from the interspatial ring. However, they were all lords." "As I expected." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Entering Beima Cave Mansion would cost an expert 100,000 battle achievements. An ordinary Saint Realm expert could not earn 100,000 battle achievements, so it was only possible for them to be lords. Jian Wushuang had the opportunity to come here because he received a special reward. "I wonder if I can hold on for 10 breaths of time." Jian Wushuang thought with a hint of expectation in his eyes. "Sir, I will wait outside of the secret chamber." "Good luck," and Feng said. Then he walked out of the secret chamber and closed the door. The puppet fighter suddenly opened his eye and coldly looked at the young man. Jian Wushuang's expression became solemn. As he watched the puppet fighter, which was emanating a mighty aura, he directly performed road to the underworld and tenfold realm, causing the blood river to spread out and cover the whole chamber. Then Jian Wushuang pointed at the edge of Blood River and the colossal bridge of helplessness stretched out over it. While covered by a scarlet armor, he was standing on the bridge like a peerless Azura. Then 2 towering sword soul phantoms rose behind him. "Come," Jian Wushuang said with a cold look in his eyes. He held his triple kill sword while exuding a soaring aura. His strength had reached its peak. The puppet fighter looked at the young man. He slowly lowered his crossed forearms and clenched his hands. As a streak of light flashed faintly, a surge of terrifying power began to gather in his hands. The puppet fighter instantly moved. Chapter 439, The Dragon King Bow. Chapter 439, The Dragon King Bow. Boom! A roar suddenly rang out and the whole chamber started shaking violently. "The fight has started." And Feng perceived the sound and began counting. A breath of time, 2. Soon, 10 breaths of time passed and the secret chamber became quiet. "It seems that he made it," and Feng said with a faint smile. Jian Wushuang looked pale while gasping for breath. The puppet fighter had returned to the center of the secret chamber and closed its eyes. How powerful! Jian Wushuang sighed in private. Although 10 breaths of time was something transient, Jian Wushuang still felt that he had just experienced a big fight. His Saint Realm strength was nothing when compared to the battle strength of the Lord level. Fortunately, he only had to fight with a puppet fighter whose offensive skills were not complicated. Because of that, he was able to hold on for 10 breaths of time. If he had to fight with a real lord, he was not sure whether he could stick it out for the 10 breaths of time. Jian Wushuang slowly walked toward the interspatial ring placed at the end of the chamber. Standing before the ring, he hesitated for a while. Then he stretched out his hand towards the ring which was surrounded by gray energy. He immediately felt something. He did not know what it was, but he subconsciously grasped it and withdrew his hand. A streak of gold light followed his hand out of the gray energy area. This is... Jian Wushuang stared at the object in his hand with a hint of astonishment. It was a gold longbow with a sharp golden arrow. A bow. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly, but he immediately felt that it was an extraordinary longbow. It was covered with many mysterious cracks, and it almost seemed as if it was alive. Jian Wushuang held the longbow and it felt like it weighed thousands of kilograms. The tip of the sharp golden arrow also frightened him. Let me bind it first. Jian Wushuang immediately used his blood to bind it to himself. After that, he felt a rush of information surge into his mind. The first-grade magic weapon, Dragon King Bao. Jian Wushuang was in a daze. First grade. A first-grade magic weapon. Jian Wushuang was totally dumbfounded. He knew that the treasures in this interspatial ring would be amazing. However, he did not expect that he would be so lucky as to receive a first-grade magic weapon. First-grade magic weapons were rare even in the Divine Land. Inside the Marquis Piaoshua's treasure vault, there were less than 10 first-grade magic weapons. Moreover, they were all longswords, sabers, or giant axes, which were normally aggressive weapons. No first-grade magic weapons that were similar to this bao could be found there. It didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to understand how powerful the Dragon King Bao was. The Dragon King Bao was made from a demonic blood dragon at the Lord level. The body of the bao and the bowstring were created by using its hardest bone and its tendon. The sharp golden arrow, known as the Dragon King Arrow, was actually the sharpest horn on the demonic blood dragon. The Dragon King Bao had been created using the 3 most valuable parts of a demonic blood dragon. A first-grade magic weapon, how about its power? Jian Wushuang thought with a hint of expectance. Then he began testing the bao inside the secret chamber. He gripped the bowstring with his right hand and pulled it back with his full strength. Buzz! The instant he began to draw the bowstring, his mighty spiritual power crazily surged toward the bao, but he could only draw out 10% of the full draw. Phew! Jian Wushuang exhaled a breath. Then he slowly put down the Dragon King Bao. It is worthy of being a first-grade magic weapon. I tried my best but could only handle 10% of the full draw. Jian Wushuang sighed in private. He could not display its full power. However, he felt its terrifying power while drawing the bao. Furthermore, he had not used the Dragon King Arrow. Good stuff. Jian Wushuang was privately delighted. Then an idea flashed through his mind. He immediately turned his hand over and a transparent jade bottle appeared. He opened it and let a small amount of white fluid flow out. The white fluid was the venom Jian Wushuang had gained from refining the icy heart poison. Icy heart poison was the most frightening venom that Jian Wushuang had ever seen. Now that venom was flowing towards the Dragon King Arrow, where it quickly merged with the arrow tip. After that, the gold arrow tip became extremely white, which would terrify people. Jian Wushuang laughed. Even a lord should be unable to detoxify his body if this arrow pricks his skin. Jian Wushuang thought with a flicker of craftiness in his eyes. As a first-grade magic weapon, the Dragon King Bow combined with the Dragon King Arrow was more than powerful enough. With the aid of the icy heart poison, it could strike terror into any lord's heart. From now on, I have one more terrifying trump card. Jian Wushuang was filled with excitement. Once he calmed down, he left the secret chamber. Sir. And Feng, who had been waiting outside, walked over and said, "It looks like you're very satisfied with the treasure you received." "Yeah, not bad," Jian Wushuang replied with a faint smile, but he was actually quite satisfied in his heart. "Please take me to the place with the second opportunity," Jian Wushuang said. "Okay." And Feng led the way and they quickly arrived at a side palace. The palace was spacious and without any decoration. There was only a thunderbolt pool, with a large number of purple thunderbolts, placed at the center of the area. Even though he was standing so far away from the pool, Jian Wushuang still felt that those thunderbolts were terrifying. "Sir, this is the second opportunity Marquis Beima left, the Universal Thunderbolt Pool." Chapter 440, Universal Thunderbolt Pool. Chapter 440, Universal Thunderbolt Pool. Jian Wushuang walked toward the Thunderbolt Pool. The closer he moved towards it, the more he felt how powerful those thunderbolts were. There were thousands of purple thunderbolts flickering in the violent Thunderbolt Pool. Each of the thunderbolts was extraordinary. "How do I use the Thunderbolt Pool?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Sir, you might not know this, but those purple thunderbolts are purple heaven thunderbolts. Unlike ordinary offensive thunderbolts, those are powerful but not violent. Experts can absorb them to strengthen their bodies," and Feng replied. "Strengthen their bodies?" Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up with joy. And Feng added, "Sir, you should know how important a powerful body is for a warrior. As experts of the Saint Realm, we might not be able to display its power, but once we reach the Lord level our bodies change and become like a weapon, so the Purple Heaven Thunderbolt is very useful. Purple Heaven Thunderbolts are rare and precious in the vast divine land. Normally, it's hard for even lords to get one, but Marquis Beima gathered thousands of Purple Heaven Thunderbolts here and created the Universal Thunderbolt Pool. After our camp conquered Beima Cave Mansion, many lords have come here and tried to use the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts to strengthen their bodies. However, normally, they were only able to absorb 7 or 8 thunderbolts since these thunderbolts are extremely powerful. Black Yuan Lord has probably gained the most. He absorbed 15 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts and his body became so powerful that it is comparable to a second-grade magic weapon. With such a powerful body, he ranks third among our lords." Jian Wushuang nodded in private. He was very clear about how important a powerful body was for a warrior. After all, his own body was also terrifying and extraordinary among Saint Realm experts. His body had been improving. "Though I'm only at the Saint Realm, my body can be compared with a medium third-grade magic weapon, much stronger than other lords. What's more, my body is full of potential because of heavenly creation skill. I wonder how many thunderbolts I will be able to absorb," Jian Wushuang thought with expectation. "Sir, I'll wait outside," and Feng said and then left. Purple Heaven Thunderbolts. Jian Wushuang looked at the Universal Thunderbolt Pool with sparkling eyes. Then he flew into the pool. He immediately sensed the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts around him. Each of the thunderbolts was powerful, but they lacked offensive power. Otherwise, he would have been smashed to pieces by these thunderbolts. "Come on." Jian Wushuang immediately sat down inside the pool with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes and began operating the heavenly creation skill, directly absorbing a Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. After the thunderbolt entered his body, he immediately felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The thunderbolt crazily swept through his bones and 8 extraordinary meridians, finally changing into a purple power and merging with his body. "Nice." Jian Wushuang wore a smile. When the Purple Heaven Thunderbolt was strengthening his body, the sense of electric shock refreshed him. He did not feel any pain. In the blink of an eye, he had completely absorbed the first purple heaven thunderbolt. That's it. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He thought it would be hard to strengthen his body with the purple heaven thunderbolts and that it might be accompanied by some pain, but it actually went very smoothly. He clearly felt that his body had become stronger than before. Let's do it again, Jian Wushuang said expectantly. He immediately started absorbing the second purple heaven thunderbolt. It was also done easily. Then the third thunderbolt. Jian Wushuang found that it was very easy for him to absorb the thunderbolts. Normally, lords could absorb 7 or 8 purple heaven thunderbolts, but Jian Wushuang, a Saint Realm expert, had already absorbed 10 with ease. It was a piece of cake for him. Everything went smoothly while Jian Wushuang absorbed the thunderbolts. 10 purple heaven thunderbolts, but I haven't reached my limit. Black Yuan Lord absorbed 15 thunderbolts, which was the most so far. I am not a lord, but I might be able to absorb more thunderbolts than him. He immediately continued his work. The 11th thunderbolt, the 12th thunderbolt, the 15th thunderbolt. He absorbed 15 purple heaven thunderbolts and caught up with Black Yuan Lord, but he still felt it was easy. Then the 16th thunderbolt, the 17th thunderbolt. Time flies. Jian Wushuang immersed himself in absorbing the purple heaven thunderbolts and lost his sense of time. He eventually opened his eyes. I'm full and can't absorb any more purple heaven thunderbolts, Jian Wushuang thought. At this point, he exited the universal thunderbolt pool. Standing by the pool, Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and felt the mighty power flowing through it. He also looked stronger than before. 37 thunderbolts, Jian Wushuang thought, with a surge of excitement in his eyes. It was true that he absorbed 37 purple heaven thunderbolts before his body finally reached its limit. 37 thunderbolts. Jian Wushuang absorbed 37 thunderbolts, over twice as many as Black Yuan Lord. Chapter 441, Cottage World. Chapter 441, Cottage World. At first, Jian Wushuang felt it was odd that he was able to completely absorb 37 purple heaven thunderbolts, but he quickly realized why. Purple heaven thunderbolts were used for building up and strengthening the body. However, Jian Wushuang cultivated the heavenly creation skill and was already a venerable master. Right now, the biggest difference between Jian Wushuang and normal warriors was his body. This wasn't in reference to his physical strength. Instead, it was his body's foundation. After he broke through to the level of venerable master, his body continued to strengthen, gaining unlimited possibilities. How much a body could be strengthened and how many purple heaven thunderbolts it could absorb, depended on the body's foundation and the warrior's endurance. Obviously, Jian Wushuang was able to bear much more than those lords. Even the Black Yuan Lord could only endure 15 purple heaven thunderbolts, but Jian Wushuang was able to absorb 37 of them. Now, my body is. Jian Wushuang couldn't help inspecting his body. He could only vaguely sense its strength at the moment. Previously, my body was only on par with a medium third-grade magic weapon. However, after absorbing so many purple heaven thunderbolts, it seems to have reached a new level. But now, it should be good enough to match up against superior second-grade magic weapons, shouldn't it? Jian Wushuang thought secretly. Superior second-grade magic weapons only ranked second to first-grade magic weapons. This is the current strength of Jian Wushuang's body. Such a strong body was already incredible among many lords, not to mention those in the Saint Realm. With this body, which was comparable to superior second-grade magic weapons, if Jian Wushuang stood there and let a Stage 2 warrior, or even an ordinary Stage 3 expert, attack him, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. If they wanted to harm him, the opponents need to be in the upper level of Stage 3 or even possess a heaven-defying level of strength. But, even then, they would only be able to hurt him. As far as killing him though, ordinary lords wouldn't be able to do that. Since my body was strengthened so much, what about my power? Jian Wushuang was filled with expectations as he clenched his right fist and launched a punch toward the area directly in front of him. Bang! A powerful wind-breaking sound filled the area. This punch, which flew through the air, created a thunderous sound that caused the whole area to tremble. This power, Jian Wushuang was shocked. 8 times. The power of that attack was 8 times stronger than before. Jian Wushuang was very happy and surprised. With the increase of his physical strength, his power had skyrocketed. The strength of his body has risen from a medium 3rd-grade magic weapon to a superior 2nd-grade magic weapon. It was strengthened so much in such a short time, it was no wonder his power had also been enhanced to 8 times that of his previous ability. His overall ability surged to a new level once again. Now, if he met Dang He again, he would be able to kill him without using the blood puppet. Unfortunately, I am only in the Saint realm. If I could break through and become a lord, I would definitely be able to absorb a lot more of the purple heaven thunderbolts inside the universal thunderbolt pool, Jian Wushuang sighed. Anyway, I should be satisfied with this. Jian Wushuang was delighted. He turned around and left the universal thunderbolt pool without any hesitation. Outside the hall, Feng had been waiting there for a few days now. When he noticed Jian Wushuang exiting the hall, he rushed to welcome him as quickly as possible. However, upon seeing Jian Wushuang again, Feng was surprised. He noticed that Jian Wushuang was obviously different from several days ago. Even though his aura was still the same as before, he could tell that Jian Wushuang was much stronger. Previously, he felt slightly stressed when facing Jian Wushuang, but that was because of Jian Wushuang's amazing battle results. Now, when Jian Wushuang was standing in front of him, he could feel a harsh oppression. It seemed that he could easily be killed by Jian Wushuang. Congratulations, Lord Swordsman. Feng immediately realized that Jian Wushuang had improved immensely inside the universal thunderbolt pool. Jian Wushuang smiled at him and said, Feng, take me to the place with the 3rd opportunity. Jian Wushuang was filled with anticipation towards the 3rd opportunity, which was also the last one in the Bei Mo cave mansion. After all, the first couple opportunities had already satisfied him a lot. He received a 1st-grade magic weapon, the Dragon King Bao, from the first opportunity, granting him another terrifying trump card. He completely absorbed 37 purple heaven thunderbolts in the 2nd opportunity, tremendously strengthening his body, which improved his overall ability enormously. Both of these opportunities had already benefited him greatly, so what about the 3rd one? Feng and Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at an open space in the deepest part of the cave mansion. There, in the middle of the open space, stood a thatched cottage. A thatched cottage? Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. Bei Mo Marquis left a thatched cottage in his cave mansion. That was really unexpected. My lord, this thatched cottage is the 3rd, the most precious, and most important opportunity. It has a name to go with it. We call it the Cottage World, Feng said. Cottage World? Jian Wushuang was surprised. World origin? Yes, Feng nodded and said, Bei Mo Marquis had reached great heights in comprehension of world origin. Among these 3 opportunities, only the cottage world is related to the world origin. I think the reason that you came to the cave mansion of Bei Mo Marquis is to comprehend world origin as well, right? Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. This is it. I don't think that the opportunity inside the cottage world will disappoint you at all, but before you enter, I must inform you that you need to proceed with caution. Everyone only receives one chance to enter the cottage world. It's very rare, so you have to take advantage of this opportunity, Feng said. My lord, upon entering the thatched cottage, you will see a futon. Once you sit on it, you will understand what's special about the cottage world. However, you will also quickly fall into a gentle slumber afterward. Slumber? Jian Wushuang looked at him with a curious expression. Don't worry. This slumber is definitely something good. You can take it as a form of enlightenment, and the longer you spend slumbering, the more beneficial it will be for you. However, the instant you wake up, the opportunity will end, and Feng said. That's it. Jian Wushuang didn't know how to react. You have to go into cottage world and experience it yourself to truly understand, and Feng said with a big smile. Jian Wushuang nodded gently, then he slowly walked toward the thatched cottage. Once he reached the front door, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, opened the door, and entered the thatched cottage. This indifferent man, as well as the other two people, were all top experts at the flaming battlefield, each of whom was in the overlord rank and not much weaker than Heaven's Stone Castle Lord. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, if one could kill any one of these people, he would get a special reward. Please don't worry, all your questions will be answered shortly. All in all, it is a very rare opportunity for you all. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way. The three people, including the indifferent man, who were invited by Heaven's Stone Castle Lord slightly frowned. Just an instant later, another person turned up in the hall. Once he appeared, everyone, including Heaven's Stone Castle Lord, stood up. Master Long Xiang. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord said modestly. Master Long Xiang. The three invited people, including the indifferent man, were all respectful. Long Xiang was from Marquis Cangyue's camp, and he was one of their two heaven-defying experts. Originally, there had been 3 heaven-defying experts in Marquis Cangyue's camp. However, Deng Huo was slaughtered, so there were only 2 left. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord, as well as the 3 people, were all called overlords at the flaming battlefield, but they still had to be respectful in front of a heaven-defying expert. Tian Shi, you know my temperament. If you don't have something that interests me, I'm afraid you won't like the consequences. Long Xiang shot a glance at Heaven's Stone Castle Lord with cold eyes. Master Long Xiang, you and the other 3 can rest assured. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord smiled and said, since I have invited you here, there is definitely something very special. It's useless to talk here. Please follow me, and you'll understand. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Hearing this, Long Xiang nodded slightly. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord immediately led Long Xiang and the others towards the deepest section of the inner area. After traveling for half a day, they finally arrived at a rift. This rift was surrounded by mountains in all directions, located in a barren area with only a few trees. Tian Shi, why do you take us here? Long Xiang shot a glance at the rift below. The inner area was very vast and there were numerous similar rifts like the one below, which had no extraordinary features. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way and gave no answer. Then, he directly jumped towards the bottom of the rift, where he proceeded to pat some of the stone walls, leaving behind several hand prints. At this moment, an impressive secret entry appeared on one stone wall. That entry was not horizontal, but vertical, reaching down to the bottom of the rift. However, it was too deep to see clearly. The only thing visible was the total darkness. What's this? When Long Xiang and others saw the entry suddenly appear, their expressions became weird. This entry, is it? Long Xiang's pupils suddenly shrank. Master Long Xiang, you're right. This is the entry to a cave mansion, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord said and grinned. Hearing this, Long Xiang and the other 3 people were astonished. A cave mansion? An undiscovered cave mansion? And here in the inner area? A cave mansion in the inner area? Chapter 443, Might be a Marquis' Cave Mansion. Chapter 443, Might be a Marquis' Cave Mansion. Though most of the 330 cave mansions on the flaming battlefield had come to light or been found, some of them were still hidden. Normally, a newly found cave mansion would not have surprised Long Xiang and the others that much. What was beyond their belief was that the mansion was in the inner area. After all, nearly all the mansions under the two camps' control were found in the outer area or even at the edge of the battlefield. No one had thought that someone would leave their mansion in the inner area, where the final battle between the Marquises, the 322 experts in the Cloud Realm, and the great demon Di Jing had taken place. Therefore, the mansion before their eyes was the first one that had been found in the inner area. Tian Shi, are you sure there is a mansion here? Long Xiang finally asked. I'm sure. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord nodded seriously. It was by coincidence that I found this mansion, and I checked inside it immediately, but I was not able to find out who the owner was because I was kicked out by the guards. The guards? Long Xiang was confused. Yes, the guards, they are puppet fighters, and very powerful ones at that. I can't break in on my own, so I asked you all for help, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord explained. The Lord's words caused the eyes of Long Xiang and the indifferent man to light up. For them, an unexplored mansion was a great treasure that they would definitely be drawn to. Let's go down now. Long Xiang suggested. The 5 people immediately landed at the bottom of the rift, then they passed through the entrance on the wall and started their adventure. A half-day later, a booming sound echoed through the rift as fierce battle took place. Swish! Swish! 2 figures flashed out from the entrance. They 2 figured were Long Xiang and Heaven's Stone Castle Lord. They found a foothold in the air above the rift, both looking like they had been roughed up. Especially Heaven's Stone Castle Lord. He had a pale expression, a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and his aura was slowly dying out. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared blankly at the black entrance. Those puppet fighters were so terrifying. Horrible. Leng Rong and the other 2 were overlords on the flaming battlefield. They might even have been strong enough to battle against a lord. Nonetheless, they were killed by the puppets before they could even put up a struggle. Those puppets are stronger than lords. 5 people entered the mansion together, but only Long Xiang and Heaven's Stone Castle Lord managed to escape. This cave mansion is unusual. Long Xiang had a grave expression as he said, we had to run away even though we were only in the outer layer. This mansion is indeed dangerous, even more so than the 2 mansions that I have previously explored. However, more danger means more treasures and a more powerful owner. I reckon this mansion belonged to a lord as powerful as Joshua Lord and Black Yuan Lord. It may even belong to a marquis. A marquis? Heaven's Stone Castle Lord was shocked by this assumption. After all, lords would never be interested in an ordinary lord's mansion, and only experts in the Saint Realm would care about that. If the assumption was true, the mansion would definitely attract lots of experts and lords. Among the 8 marquis mansions, only 2 had not been found so far. In the past 1,000 years, every new marquis mansion that was found brought about a bloody war between the super experts because everyone knew that marquises possessed incredible techniques, so their mansions had to be invaluable. As proof, even though it had been found long ago, Marquis Beima's mansion still had 30% of its value when Jian Wushuang went there, and his adventure was very rewarding. Therefore, there had to be many more opportunities in a newly found marquis mansion since it had not been explored yet. The opportunities in this mansion don't belong to us, Long Xiang said while gasping. Heaven's Stone Castle Lord nodded in recognition of his words. Both of them were clear about the fact that they were a bit stronger than ordinary lords and would not lose their lives inside, but it was still impossible for them to seize any of the opportunities. The shadow of being chased by a terrifying puppet fighter and being so near to death's door was still hunting them. Let's send the news back first, said Long Xiang helplessly. Right then, they heard a voice that said, "What are you doing here, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord and Long Xiang?" Along with the voice, a handsome youth with black hair approached them, carrying a long spear on his back. Oh no! After they saw the man, the expressions of Long Xiang and Heaven's Stone Castle Lord both became dark. They knew they could not hide the news anymore. The youth neared the rift and saw the entrance on the wall. The previous explosion had enlarged the entrance, and the aftermath attracted the youth's attention. Is this a mansion? The youth widened his eyes. A mansion in the inner area? Damn! Both Long Xiang's and Heaven's Stone Castle lords' faces fell. The youth had discovered it. Chapter 444, 4 Marks. Chapter 444, 4 Marks. Inside Marquis Beima's cave mansion, Jian Wushuang finally woke up from cottage world. The moment he opened his eyes, the world connected by the futon, wooden table, lamp, and painting immediately disappeared in front of him. The 4 objects returned to being ordinary. Amazing! Jian Wushuang called out. Marquis Beima lived up to his fame as a top marquis. He must have reached great heights in world origin to create such a wonderful cottage world. How long have I been asleep? Jian Wushuang was curious. Because of the long slumber, he had lost track of time. Suddenly, he looked down at his right arm, where the power of world origin was gathering. Am I about to condense another origin mark? He smiled. It was a fantastic slumber. He had been immersed in meditating on the world origin in such an efficient manner, and the outcome was satisfying. A short while later, a new world origin mark emerged on his right arm. Similar to Slaughter origin mark, it was shaped like flame, but this mark was purple. However, the power of the world origin was not disappearing. Instead, it started to condense a second mark, then a third mark. In the blink of an eye, 2 more marks appeared on Jian Wushuang's right arm. 3 origin marks was the symbol of an expert in stage 3, and even those who were at the heaven-defying level could not form more than 3 marks. For a long time, Jian Wushuang had been weak in comprehension of the origin. After all, he had not been cultivating for very long. But, now he was finally catching up. After the 3rd mark was condensed, the power still remained and continued working until a 4th mark was completely condensed. 4 origin marks. A spark flashed through Jian Wushuang's eyes. Before, he had only possessed 1 Slaughter origin mark, but now, after meditating in the cottage world, he had 4 world origin marks as well. That was to say, he had surpassed many experts at stage 3 and even the heaven-defying level. With the power behind every mark, he was now several times stronger than before. He was above heaven-defying level, which he had reached while only relying on 1 mark, a strong body, and techniques like the heavenly creation skill, road to the underworld, and so on. An ordinary warrior has to condense 3 origin marks and awaken his soul to reach the heaven-defying level. For me, condensing 4 origin marks by itself should be enough. Jian Wushuang pondered. Of course, he didn't forget that he also had a Slaughter origin mark, but the power from different origins could not be combined, so he could only apply 4 marks at most. Nonetheless, it did not change the fact that he had reached the heaven-defying level. Maybe he was even far above that level. With the advantages of the heavenly creation skill and having strengthened his body in Universal Thunderbolt Pool, he was a dozen times more powerful than an ordinary expert. He might even be on a par with a lord. Not only that, his double first-grade sword soul and trump cards provided him with even more support. As of now, killing an expert like Dang Hua would be a piece of cake for him. It is said that no matter how powerful an expert in the Saint Realm is, he has no chance of defeating a lord because there is an unbridgeable gap that separates them. However, I feel like my current strength is enough to destroy that belief. Jian Wushuang was filled with confidence. And, as he clenched his fists, his eyes seemed to sparkle. He simply believed in himself despite the fact that he had not battled with a lord yet. After standing up, he could feel an outpouring energy exploding in his body. It seems that I've been inside for quite a while. Jian Wushuang walked out of the cottage world with a smile. Sir, you finally came out. And Feng came up to Jian Wushuang just as he walked out. How long have I been in the cottage world? Jian Wushuang asked. 2 years and 4 months, replied Enfeng. So long? Jian Wushuang was amazed. The amount of time that passed was much longer than he had thought. Shouldn't staying longer be better? Enfeng couldn't help grinning. Jian Wushuang was speechless. He handed Enfeng an interspatial ring and said, "There are some raw gems in this ring. Please take it as my reward to you for guiding me while I was here." Enfeng accepted the ring, and his eyes lit up after he used his consciousness to inspect the contents. "Thank you. Sir, why don't you stay inside a little longer? The mansion is so large, there must be some undiscovered treasures lying around. With a bit of luck, you'll be able to gain even more," Enfeng added. "I'm afraid I can't." Jian Wushuang shook his head and continued, "I've already benefited greatly from these 3 opportunities, so I'm satisfied." He had other things to do, so he left the mansion that same day. Chapter 445, A Feast for Experts. Chapter 445, A Feast for Experts. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, a burly man with a purple saber on his back was noisily drinking by himself. "Lei Dao, why are you drowning your sorrows in wine?" The man heard the voice and turned around only to see Jian Wushuang walking towards him. He beamed and said, "Wow! Swordsman." Jian Wushuang smiled at the man as well and continued walking towards him. "Lei Dao, it's been a while since I last saw you." In fact, it had been 3 years since they had last seen each other. They had come to Flaming Battlefield as part of a group, but 3 years ago Jian Wushuang had left to go to the inner area while Lei Dao and Shiling had stayed in the outer area. "Where are Shiling and the others?" Jian Wushuang asked. Lei Dao's eyes became dark when he heard that name. "He died 1 year ago, so did Yan Mo Bingyu, and I were the only 2 survivors. She went back to our territory with Sir Axe that same year." Alas! Jian Wushuang shook his head, looking sad. The flaming battlefield was full of danger and everyone could lose their life at any time. They knew it very well before they stepped onto the field. "We're no match for you, swordsman." Lei Dao suddenly looked back at Jian Wushuang. "You managed to kill Deng Hua, an expert at heaven-defying level. That's good for you." Lei Dao admired Jian Wushuang from the bottom of his heart. 2 years ago, the news that Jian Wushuang killed Deng Hua had really astonished him and the others. Now, 2 years have passed, and you must have progressed even more than before, Lei Dao added. "Just so, Jian Wushuang said humbly. Right then, 2 figures appeared in the void above the camp, radiating a powerful aura that chilled the experts below. "Lords." Jian Wushuang spotted the figures. However, after a short stay, the 2 figures headed towards the flaming battlefield. Why are they going to the flaming battlefield? Jian Wushuang looked curious because all the experts on the battlefield knew that lords only participated in battle on special occasions. "Just 2 more people who want to try their luck in the Marquis Mansion," answered Lei Dao. "A Marquis Mansion? What do you mean?" Jian Wushuang questioned further. "You don't know?" Lei Dao shot Jian Wushuang an odd look. "I've been cultivating inside a mansion for the last 2 years, so I do not know anything that has happened." "I see." After a nod, Lei Dao continued, "Several days ago, a new cave mansion was found in the inner area." "Inner area?" Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. As far as he knew, almost all the mansions on the flaming battlefield had been found in the outer area or on the edge of it, none had been found in the inner area yet. When this mansion was found, the unusual news immediately attracted the 2 camps' attention. They sent some experts there to look around and it was quickly confirmed as a Marquis mansion. "We haven't figured out the Marquis identity, but whoever he was, the mansion must be invaluable, let alone that it's a newly found one." Now, nearly all the experts of the 2 camps have been driven crazy by the news and are hurrying there. I reckon there is already a large gathering of experts in the mansion. After all, there are over 50 lords from our camp among them, including Iron Saber Lord. Iron Saber Lord went there as well. Jian Wushuang was a little surprised, but it didn't take long for him to understand that the mansion deserved this level of attention. In this case, there must be over 100 lords inside the mansion. It really is a feast for experts. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists while feeling thrilled. He was about to witness a gather of hundreds of lords, something that only happened once in a blue moon. Swordsman, you're powerful enough to try your luck in the outer layer of the mansion. I heard some experts in Stage 3 have gone there and gained some opportunities and treasures, said Lei Dao. His words aroused Jian Wushuang's interest. He is right. This mansion has just been discovered, and as the first mansion found in inner area, it must be special. It should contain many opportunities and treasures inside. I can't miss this chance, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Lei Dao, I have to go now. Jian Wushuang said goodbye to Lei Dao and went to the camp's treasure vault. Since he had made up his mind to adventure in the mansion, he had to be well prepared. He selected 2 things from the treasure vault. I want to exchange for the second manual of triple shift technique and 5 blood gems. However, I'm in a hurry to go to the inner area and can't wait for 3 days, so can you give them to me now? Jian Wushuang asked a gray-clothed elder. The elder raised his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang, then he said, okay. Normally, one had to wait 3 days to get the treasures they wanted in the exchange. If Jian Wushuang had been an ordinary expert in their camp, instead of one of the top 4 geniuses at heaven-defying level, the elder would not have approved his request. Jian Wushuang paid for the items with his battle achievement. Currently, he had an abundance of battle achievements. He had gained 10,000 points at the Jiuxia Cave Mansion and a certain number for killing Deng Hua, an expert at the peak of Stage 3. Those battle achievements were more than enough for him to exchange for the second shift manual, so he spent the remaining achievements on blood gems. Although he still had some blood gems in his possession, after considering that he was going to a place full of lords and that he might need to use his blood puppet, more blood gems might be necessary. Having received what he wanted, Jian Wushuang headed towards the inner area. Chapter 446, Wu Ming. Chapter 446, Wu Ming. With the appearance of the Marquis Cave Mansion, the inner area had attracted everyone's attention. Even though I've been in the inner area for a long time now, I have only seen 2 experts. It seems almost all the Stage 3 experts have gone to the mansion. Setting out from the campsite, Jian Wushuang traveled at a fast speed towards the inner area. It wouldn't take him long to get to the Marquis Cave Mansion. Right at this moment. Oh. Jian Wushuang paused, looking towards a figure that was walking a short distance away from him. It was a dark-skinned bald man with a giant axe on his back. Not perceiving his token, Jian Wushuang knew that he was an expert from the opposite camp. Jian Wushuang was heading to the Marquis Cave Mansion, so it was better to ignore normal experts of the opposite camp. However, this man wasn't just any normal expert. It's him. Seeing his face, Jian Wushuang immediately thought of a name. What are the chances I would meet him here? Jian Wushuang grinned, then he moved. In the grass, the bald man, Wu Ming, was walking forward slowly with a cold and indifferent look on his face. 3 days, I haven't seen an expert from the opposite camp for 3 days. Apparently, they have all gone to the Marquis Cave Mansion. Wu Ming's eyes were cold. Humph, idiots. Opportunities are always accompanied by danger. More than 10 experts at the peak of Stage 3 have died since it was found, and so have several lords. If you're not as strong as experts like Bone King and Heaven's Stone Castle Lord, you will die even you are only exploring the outer layer. And those opportunities are worthless to you if you die. Wu Ming knew his strength well enough. He gave up after learning that it was a Marquis Cave Mansion. He knew it was nothing more than seeking death for him. Many experts had died in the cave mansion in just the last few days. It's better for me to stay in the inner area. Here, no one can kill me unless he's an expert at the heaven-defying level. Wu Ming was busy thinking when a sudden wind-breaking sound reverberated from nearby. Wu Ming raised his head and saw a flowing light rushing towards him. The light left a residual shadow in the air as it moved toward him in the blink of an eye. Wu Ming. While standing above an empty space in front of Wu Ming, Jian Wushuang shouted to him. You're. After gazing at him and seeing his face, Wu Ming only thought of one name. A terrible name for him. Swordsman. Wu Ming was astonished, but he quickly calmed down and greeted him humbly. Nice to see you, Master Swordsman. What can I do for you? Wu Ming knew that with no lords present, Jian Wushuang was invincible in the entire flaming battlefield. If he behaved himself, such an expert would not attack him just for the battle achievements. Jian Wushuang watched his every tiny expression and smiled slightly. Wu Ming, I heard that you have a ring which can display something similar to a realm technique. Wu Ming's heart tightened. He instantly remembered that Jian Wushuang also had a powerful realm technique. Is he after my ring? Wu Ming's heart fell as he looked at the scarlet ring on his finger. He had found it in a cave mansion by chance, and it had saved his life several times now. It was quite important to him, it was even the most important treasure he had. So it's the scarlet ring. Jian Wushuang looked at the scarlet ring on Wu Ming's finger. He had kept it in mind ever since he heard about it from Shuiyang. He had not been striving for it, but he had unexpectedly met Wu Ming here. Since he came across it, Jian Wushuang surely would not leave without it. I'm curious, which one is more powerful, yours or mine? Jian Wushuang asked and smiled. Hearing this, Wu Ming's eyes narrowed, then. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Wu Ming turned and tried to flee. Run! Run! Wu Ming dared not fight with Jian Wushuang, and he was also unwilling to give him the scarlet ring, so his only remaining option was to flee. Seeing that, Jian Wushuang smiled. Then a vast blood river flowed out, completely covering Wu Ming and the space around him. A powerful force tried to put pressure on Wu Ming. Wu Ming had a sullen look on his face. Upon perceiving the blood river that was rushing towards him, he gritted his teeth. Chapter 447, Blood Fire Ring. Chapter 447, Blood Fire Ring. The blood fire domain crumbled and Wu Ming felt like he was carrying a mountain on his back, moving as slowly as a snail. Jian Wushuang shuttled through the air, straight towards Wu Ming. He quickly appeared in front of Wu Ming and launched a punch. Wu Ming raised his giant axe and crazily fended against it. Boom! The heavy hit knocked Wu Ming's giant axe away and Jian Wushuang's fist continued on its path towards Wu Ming's head. Wu Ming's head was smashed, instantly bringing about his death. After killing Wu Ming, Jian Wushuang took both his interspatial ring and scarlet ring. While holding the scarlet ring, Jian Wushuang used a drop of his blood to bind it. The next moment, he felt a rush of information surge into his mind. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Now he understood why the scarlet ring was able to display a realm technique. The scarlet ring, called the blood fire ring, was not a magic weapon because both the material and refining method used to create it were common. But it contained a formation. This formation allowed the blood fire ring to simulate a realm. Unique, strong, nice. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. With only a thought, the blood fire domain swept out and began mixing with the boundless blood river, causing the power of the blood river to instantly skyrocket. Road to the underworld, hundredfold realm, and the blood fire ring. With such a strong combination, I'm afraid that even lords will be suppressed by it. Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of excitement. His battle strength had improved once again. It was only due to luck that Jian Wushuang met Wu Ming on the way to the Marquis Cave Mansion and acquired the Blood Fire Ring. He continued on his way for another half-day before finally arriving at the entrance to the cave mansion. At a giant rift in the middle of a barren area, two mountains stood facing each other. On the mountains, there were two temporarily built camps stationed, in which many experts had gathered. Among the experts, the weakest was at stage 3. Many were at the peak of stage 3 and a few of them were even lords. Jian Wushuang's arrival at the Marquis Piaoxue campsite attracted a lot of attention. "Is that, Master Swordsman?" "It's him. He disappeared right after he killed Dang Hua 2 years ago. It seems like Swordsman has finally returned today." Inside a tent, Jian Wushuang greeted Spirit Lord, who was currently in charge this time. As one of the 4 lords in charge of the Marquis Piaoxue camp's business, Spirit Lord held a high status and many lords had to obey him. "Swordsman, did you just return the Bei Mo Marquis Cave Mansion?" Spirit Lord looked at Jian Wushuang. "Yes," Jian Wushuang nodded. "I expect you must have improved a lot since you remained there for over 2 years, Spirit Lord said in a teasing manner, then he continued somewhat sternly, "All right, no more nonsense. It's good that you were able to arrive here in time. I will tell you some of the details about this cave mansion. The cave mansion that lies beneath us is quite unusual. Regardless of the inner layer, which is the battlefield of lords, the outer layer is a vast and boundless maze that contains many opportunities. The experts of our camp and the Marquis Tsangyue camp have both searched through many areas in the outer layer over these last few days. But we haven't explored it thoroughly. The two camps have fought many times over opportunities and treasures, but we have always been able to gain the upper hand. I believe your arrival will increase our advantage even more." "Outer layer? Maze?" Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, "Spirit Lord, do you have a map of the cave mansion?" "Yes." Spirit Lord nodded and proceeded to say, "Every 2 hours we update the map according to the searches currently taking place. Therefore, it's easy to imagine how large it must be." "When are you going inside?" Spirit Lord asked. "Now," Jian Wushuang said. "Be careful, there should be no danger for you as long as your luck isn't bad," said Spirit Lord. Jian Wushuang nodded while thinking of a plan. Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at the entrance of the cave mansion and directly entered without hesitation. Nobody knew that there was a magnificent hall at the bottom of the cave mansion, nor did they know about the humongous ancient stone pillar that stood at the center of the hall. A skinny elder sat cross-legged in the hall, so quietly that it seemed as if he was dead. As soon as Jian Wushuang entered the cave mansion, the skinny elder suddenly raised his head, revealing a pair of eyes that seemed to glow. "This aura. Young master, it's the young master's aura. Who has come here?" The skinny elder's roar echoed throughout the hall. Chapter 448, Help Me, Swordsman. Chapter 448, Help Me, Swordsman. After traveling along the path to the entrance, Jian Wushuang went inside the cave mansion at the bottom of the rift. He looked around and noticed that there were 5 channels in front of him. The cave mansion was a huge maze, and each channel led to a different place. The middle one leads to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang squinted and gazed at it. Spirit Lord had warned him to be careful in the outer layer, but Jian Wushuang's chosen destination wasn't the outer layer. There were many opportunities in the outer layer, but they were insignificant opportunities that were only attractive to those stage 3 experts. The Lord's battlefield was in the inner layer. The opportunities and treasures in the inner layer were much rarer. The outer layer was not challenging for Jian Wushuang, so he was eager to go to the inner layer. "Let's go." Jian Wushuang chose the middle channel without any hesitation. The map he received from Spirit Lord, though incomplete, clearly showed how to travel from the outer layer to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang just needed to follow the map. Entering the channel, Jian Wushuang found that there were some secret chambers on both sides. There were many secret chambers in the cave mansion, most of which were empty, but a few of them hid some opportunities and treasures. This was the goal of the experts from 2 camps who were exploring the outer layer. Passing by all these secret chambers, Jian Wushuang continued walking directly towards the inner layer. Right as he walked past the entrance to one of the channels. Boom! Boom! The sound of loud explosions reverberated through the cave mansion. Bang! A figure crashed into one of the stone walls of the cave mansion, heavily enough cause a disturbance, but not enough to break the wall. Shuiyang, are you okay? A blue-clothed lady arrived next to him. It's nothing serious. Shuiyang, a cold youth with sword-shaped eyebrows, raised his head. Shuiyang, Mengyu. 3 figures approached them. They were Long Xiang, Heaven Stone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon. Give me the interspatial ring you got in the secret chamber, or both of you will die. A stream of killing intent surged from Long Xiang's eyes. Just now, he saw Shuiyang and Mengyu get an interspatial ring from a secret chamber. An interspatial ring. Over these last few days, they had been searching for treasures in the secret chambers, but each secret chamber had only possessed one treasure. Only one item to split. None of them had found an interspatial ring. No one except Shuiyang and Mengyu. So it was naturally quite valuable. Don't even think about it, Shuiyang said and snorted. Very well, it seems you'd rather choose death. Long Xiang shouted, kill them. Long Xiang, Heaven Stone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon instantly attacked them at the same time. Run! Without hesitation, both Shuiyang and Mengyu ran towards a different channel. You think you can run? Long Xiang released a strong killing intent. As an expert at the heaven-defying level, he was much faster than Shuiyang and Mengyu. Damn it! As he watched Long Xiang slowly catching up, Shuiyang's face turned deathly pale. He is faster than us, and once he catches us he will easily kill us. Master Water Mirror is on the way, Mengyu said. I'm afraid we'll be dead before he can get here, Shuiyang said through gritted teeth. Water Mirror, one of the heaven-defying level experts from the Marquis Piaoxue camp, was exploring the cave mansion as well. At the very beginning, when they met Long Xiang and were attacked, Shuiyang had sent Water Mirror a message using the messaging slip. But he was exploring another channel, so it would take some time for him to arrive. What should we do? What can we do? Shuiyang was anxious. Do I have to give up on this interspatial ring? He shook his head immediately. They had gone through a lot of trouble to get it, they were naturally very unwilling to give it up. Most importantly, they believed that even if they gave him the interspatial ring, Long Xiang would still kill them. As Long Xiang approached, both Shuiyang and Mengyu felt desperate. Suddenly, ahead of them, in the front channel, a figure appeared. It was a young man with a long sword on his back. It was Jian Wushuang. Oh. A man? Even though Jian Wushuang was walking towards the inner layer, he had yet to meet an expert from either camp. Up to this point, he had only met one of the cave mansion guards. That guard was a puppet fighter, whose strength was at the peak of stage 3. As expected, Jian Wushuang had easily dealt with it. When Jian Wushuang saw Shuiyang and Mengyu, his expression became somewhat strange. Shuiyang. Jian Wushuang was surprised. At this moment, Shuiyang also saw Jian Wushuang. Swordsman. Shuiyang was stunned, but he was also happy. How lucky was he to have come across Jian Wushuang while he was being chased by Long Xiang. Swordsman, please, help me, Shuiyang called out urgently. Jian Wushuang realized that Shuiyang was running for his life from 3 people, and they were 3 people he recognized. Heaven Stone Castle Lord, Fire Demon, and an expert of the heaven-defying level, Long Xiang. Jian Wushuang smiled while thinking to himself, that's why Shuiyang and Mengyu decided to flee. He moved towards them without hesitation. Long Xiang, who was chasing Shui Yang, instantly changed his expression the moment he recognized Jian Wushuang. He is Swordsman. Swordsman. Both Heaven's Stone Castle Lord and Fire Demon were astonished. The reputation of a person is like the shadow of a tree. It had been more than 2 years ago that Jian Wushuang had killed Deng Hua, but it was still something of a hot topic. After all, he was the only person on the flaming battlefield to have killed a heaven-defying level expert while at a lower level. Even now, the results of that battle had a great impact on Jian Wushuang's reputation. Chapter 449, An Encounter. Chapter 449, An Encounter. When they saw Jian Wushuang approaching, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord and Fire Demon both stopped where they were, but Long Xiang continued moving forward. Swordsman might have mastered a powerful realm technique and own a strong puppet fighter, but his personal strength is somewhat lacking. Long Xiang didn't fear Jian Wushuang at all. The news about Jian Wushuang killing Deng Hua caused an uproar. He was also shocked when he first heard about it, but he quickly understood that Jian Wushuang had only been able to kill Deng Hua because of the blood puppet. As for his personal level of strength, he was only just barely at the heaven-defying level. That was why Long Xiang turned up his nose at Jian Wushuang. He wasn't afraid of facing Jian Wushuang. Humph, I'm not as stupid as Deng Hua. Long Xiang glared at them with cold eyes as he rushed forward with his scarlet long spear in hand. He didn't hesitate in charging towards Shui Yang and Meng Yu, not even when Jian Wushuang moved to block his path. Go to hell. At the same moment that Long Xiang shouted out, a tall spectral image instantly appeared behind him. A scarlet ripple spread out from the long spear and formed a vortex that seemed to swallow everything in the area as if it was a black hole. Suddenly, a bloody light shot forward. That light came from the scarlet long spear that was rushing towards Jian Wushuang's head with strong and cruel killing power. It was so terrifying that even Shui Yang and Meng Yu, who stood behind Jian Wushuang, began shaking fearfully. Swordsman, be careful. Shui Yang couldn't help shouting out. Oh! Seeing the bloody light, Jian Wushuang's lips curled up, revealing a cold smile. The very next moment, he clenched his right hand and stepped forward while gathering a purple thunderbolt in his fist. As he released his strength, his fist shot out like a falling star. Seeking death. Long Xiang sneered at him. Long Xiang had gone all out, but what about Jian Wushuang? They all knew that Jian Wushuang focused on sword principle and had awakened a double first-grade sword soul. However, Jian Wushuang hadn't even unsheathed his sword. Instead, he was trying to counter the spear with his fist. Was he trying to get himself killed? However, the second Jian Wushuang's fist collided with that scarlet long spear. What? Long Xiang was shocked. He felt an immense weight behind Jian Wushuang's fist that easily deflected his scarlet long spear in a head-on collision. But it wasn't even enough to make Jian Wushuang slow down. His fist continued moving forward and struck Long Xiang's head. Bang! Long Xiang's head instantly burst open like a watermelon. During this simple exchange, Long Xiang, an expert at the heaven-defying level who was stronger than Deng Hua, was instantly killed by Jian Wushuang. The other 4 people who had been watching, Shui Yang, Meng Yu, Heaven's Stone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon, were speechless as they looked on in wide-eyed shock. Did he just kill an expert of the heaven-defying level in a single blow? And even worse than that, Jian Wushuang was an expert of sword principle, but he hadn't even used his sword or his sword's soul phantom. What did this mean? It meant that Jian Wushuang had not even used his full strength. He had killed Long Xiang with nothing but brute force. Run! Run! Heaven's Stone Castle Lord shouted in panic, then he turned around and fled. Fire Demon was also panic-stricken. He swallowed, glanced at Jian Wushuang, and then fled to another tunnel as well. However, Jian Wushuang didn't chase after them. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took Long Xiang's interspatial ring, then he turned and looked towards Shuiyang and Mengyu. Shuiyang, I haven't seen you in a long time, but you have improved a lot, Jian Wushuang said and smiled. He noticed that Shuiyang had improved a lot since he last saw him 2 years ago. He was almost at the same level as Bone King and Heaven Stone Castle Lord. His improvements were probably due to the 10,000 battle achievements he received from that task. After hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Shuiyang came to himself and took a deep breath and said, with a bitter smile, yes, but my improvement was much less than yours. Jian Wushuang looked at him with an odd smile. By the way, why was Long Xiang, an expert at the heaven-defying level, trying to kill you? Did you find something special in the outer layer? Jian Wushuang was curious. Mengyu hesitated. But Shuiyang instantly replied, the two of us found an interspatial ring in one of the secret chambers, and Long Xiang found out. Is that so? Jian Wushuang nodded and said, well then, I'm going on ahead. You two take care. Thank you for your help, Shuiyang said gratefully. It was nothing. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and left, continuing on his way towards the inner layer. It didn't take long for him to disappear from their sight. Shuiyang, it seems you have a good relationship with Swordsman. Mengyu looked at Shuiyang. 2 years ago, we attacked the Jiuxia cave mansion together. At that time, he killed Deng Hua. Shuiyang continued, it's only been 2 years since then. I didn't expect his strength to improve so much after that battle. Mengyu fell silent after hearing this. It had only been slightly more than 2 years since Jian Wushuang killed Deng Hua. But, since he had relied on his realm technique and puppet fighter, his true strength had been questioned. No one thought that his strength had reached such an amazing level. It seems he is going to the inner layer. Shuiyang gazed towards the direction in which Jian Wushuang had disappeared. The inner layer? Mengyu was surprised and said, how could that be? Isn't the inner layer a battlefield for lords? Do you still think that his strength is only in the Saint Realm? Shuiyang shot a questioning look at Mengyu. Mengyu was stunned, but she quickly understood. Jian Wushuang had killed an expert at the heaven-defying level in a single exchange. Not even a normal lord could do that, so he was definitely capable of exploring the inner layer. There will be another supreme expert in Marquis Piaoshue's camp. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.